Hey everybody, a little something special here at the Open for tonight since we're going to have a debate watch party.
Thank you all very much. My name's Barry Welsh. I'm from Spiceland, Indiana originally. My dad worked at the Chrysler plant in Newcastle. My sister works at the Vistion plant on English Avenue in Indianapolis, local 1111. I am a proud member of a working family. I'm going to Washington, D.C. to be your voice. I'm going to Washington, D.C. to represent you because I am one of you. Like you, I know what it's like to struggle. Like you, I know what it's like to have hard times. Like you, I know what it's like to have to work for a living. We need representation, ladies and gentlemen, in Washington, D.C. We as the middle class, we as the workers of America need representation in Washington, D.C. The question you need to ask yourself is, who will check George W. Bush? Will Mike Pence stand up and check George W. Bush? Or am I tough enough to stand up and check George W. Bush? That's what you need to ask yourselves. Let me tell you something. For the past 18 months, I've been running around the 6th District of Indiana shouting, I have had enough. Because I've had enough. I've had enough of illegal immigration. I've had enough of jobs being outsourced. I've had enough of union busting. I've had enough of high gas prices. I've had enough of the war on the middle class. If you've had enough, let me hear you say, enough! Ladies and gentlemen, NAFTA, CAFTA, how much more of the shafta is the American worker going to have to take until we say enough? It's time to say enough. My name's Barry Welsh. I'm running against Mike Pence. I need your endorsement. I need your financial support. And more importantly, I need your vote on November 7th. God bless each and every one of you, and may God have mercy on the United States of America.
So that's what I was doing 16 years ago. Thanks to Terry Black for filming that. I'm gonna have to turn the light on here. We're not getting enough light into the thing. There we go. There we go. There we go. All right. Hello to Guy. Hello to Not Going Away. Hello to everybody. Gonna do a quick X Twitter scroll here because we got some things we need to talk about. Earlier today, Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell turned themselves in the Trump RICO case in Fulton County, Georgia. Of course, ain't no RICO like a Georgia RICO, because a Georgia RICO don't stop. In case of Prigozhin's death, this is another thing that happened today. Now, supposedly, Prigozhin, the leader of Wagner or Wagner, depending on where you're at in the world, how it's pronounced. Supposedly he was killed earlier today. We're going to touch on that as we run through the scroll, and we will get over in time to Fox for the Republican debate, and we'll watch it together here. But in case of Prigozhin's death, the PMC Wagner has developed a plan of action which is launched immediately, reports the pro-Kremlin Redovka. The mechanism is introduced automatically. What it consists of, it is unknown except to the Wagner group. So what does that mean? Well, this was earlier this evening, about 2 hours ago. This is Putin. It was midnight their time, and Putin was in a mad dash to get back to the Kremlin. Something was going on. What it is, we'll be yet to find out. But this comes from the Wagner Group itself. Wagner soldiers in Belarus released a statement. Contained in that statement, there's a lot of talk right now about what the Wagner Group will do We can tell you one thing: we are getting started. Get ready for us. Does that mean the West? Get ready for them. Does that mean Lukashenko, the leader of Belarus at this time, should be looking over his shoulder as the Wagner Group could probably fairly easily take over Belarus? And I think that might be a plan. Take over Belarus first and then go after Putin. Remember, there are nukes in Belarus. Putin put them there. I mentioned the Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell have turned themselves in earlier today. $150,000 bond for Rudy. Here are the mugshots that have come out so far. Reminder, 24 hours from now, Trump, within 24 hours, probably 24 hours from now, sometime tomorrow evening, I'm guessing around this time, Trump will be turning himself in, and shortly thereafter there will be a mugshot of him to go along with the other 9 we see right here. This was earlier this morning in Washington, D.C. A group that was called Declare Emergency. They're climate activists, and they blocked incoming traffic into D.C. They were trying to demand that Joe Biden declare a climate emergency. If you want to watch the entire thing, Ford Fisher News to Share has the whole thing. We're going to take a look at just a couple of. I thought we were. We're going to take a look at just a couple of moments of it here, hopefully, if my laptop will cooperate. One of the guys glued himself to the, let me pop this out because it's 2 minutes long. That way we won't get shut off when we do play it. One of the guys glued his hand to the pavement. Don't. Okay, first of all, I don't recommend. I'm all for protesting. You all know that. I do not recommend trying to block the road in any way, shape, or form. I know it's been done in the past. I know it's been done effectively. I know it draws attention, but it also can create emergency situations, and if you are going to block the road, don't glue yourself to the road. Shouldn't have to say that, but you know, it's 2023. Here's a little bit of what happened earlier today. Why is it not playing? Oh, great. It's going to buffer. All right, the black lady had an appointment, and she was not going to miss her appointment. And she basically shoves them out of the way, and anyway, I apologize for the buffering. I hope this is not something. She got an appointment. Again, catch this at Ford Fisher on Twitter or I'm sorry, X, or News to Share on one of the other platforms. Belarusian authorities have cut off the internet and cell tower access to the Wagner Group camp in Tail Village in Belarus. Putin and Lukashenko are trying to stop the Wagner Group from communicating with each other and coordinating some kind of quick response. I have a feeling that's why Putin was heading back to Moscow. Now, I mentioned that the reports are that Prigozhin has been killed. Those reports primarily coming from inside Russia. We've got some finally found a flight tracker. This is from inside Russia as well. Shortly after the crash in the Tver region, a second business jet owned by Prigozhin heading along a similar route from St. Petersburg, went ahead and actually landed after a lot of zigzagging, came back and landed in Moscow. So, Russia is saying Prigozhin was on that flight. Was he actually? We'll find out in due time, or maybe we never will. It's Russia after all. I mentioned Giuliani. He surrendered at the Fulton County Jail today. You can see him here. He'll be getting out of the car and shakes hands with the sheriff's deputies. I don't know if you know, there's a big talk down there that they're going to be treated like all criminals. I don't think that any of us actually believe that. And I don't know if the sheriff deputies are out there waiting to shake everybody's hand that comes in to get fingerprinted mugshot and formally arrested and then bonded out. The vibes at the Belarusian Wagner camp, as we saw, they said that they are ready. They're starting now, and that we should be ready for them, whoever we are, whether it's the West or whether it's Putin or whether it's Lukashenko or whether it's some other entity. Osnet Defender says the bodies of Wagner PMC leaders Prigozhin and his number two, Yutkin was his number two. Yutkin's actually the guy that founded the Wagner Group, and Prigozhin was just the kind of the CEO. And earlier today, Scooter Castor was outside of the Georgia Fulton County Jail and did in fact get Giuliani pulling in. Not this one, but this one right here. And of course, afterwards, Giuliani had a press conference. If you're just joining us, we are going to have the debate watch. It'll come up at 9 o'clock. We'll flip over to Fox. We're running down some things that also happened today. This is just a little break here from the news, as we often do. Gotta get rid of the music, but here we go. No, this is what I want to do right here. All right, this is takeoff. I think it's an F-14 takeoff of vertical, almost straight up. A view you don't often get, or we don't often get. So whenever people start talking about war, remember these kind of planes and things like that are great equalizers. Great equalizers. Another little, don't be stupid. Don't hit people. And if you do hit somebody, don't be surprised if you FAFO. Little guy here thinks that he's found out he was suddenly in a wrestling match, not a boxing match. And no, he is not all right. He's going to pass out about right here. So don't be stupid. Just don't, I know it's going to fall on deaf ears, but again, this is a look at the crash. This is the plane coming down. I got a better look at the plane coming down. It appears to only have one wing, so either one of the wings was blown off by an explosion inside the plane or shot down. And that was the report we got out of Ukraine. Almost the first thing that I got was that it was shot down by a Panzer anti-aircraft battery between Moscow and St. Petersburg in Russia, and that is indeed what we're seeing here, the plane coming down. I find it rather odd that Russia was they got all this information out so quickly. And they were the ones putting all this information out, including the video of the plane being shot down and the video we just saw of the burning wreckage. Having authorities there while the wreckage is still burning, it's hard not to connect some dots and think Putin might have decided that having these two men on this plane allegedly decapitates the Wagner group. They have no leadership now. They're number one and number two both taken out, and it will be much easier to control them. He may find out something totally different if the Wagner group does what I think they're going to do, and I think they're going to take over Belarus. I think they're going to eliminate Lukashenko and man up. They're going to get all their the guys that have been retired for a year or two. They're going to get them all back. They're going to get to their maximum strength, and they're going to take Putin on and possibly out. We'll see how things fall. This was earlier today. So much stuff has happened. This seems so top of the line news earlier today, but. This happened in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I got the notification. The notification I got said over 100 gunshots. And I thought, no, man, they over-exaggerate things all the time in these clips. But this was a standoff in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. They came to evict a guy, and he met police with gunfire. They returned gunfire. It went on for quite some time. Crazy stuff. It's a dark world. Try to be a light. I'm not going to show some of this stuff here because we're getting close to debate time, and we'll get back to it. I've got about 9 minutes. I want to show something that I planned on showing in its entirety last night and wasn't able to get to it. And I want to make sure we do this tonight because it's something I think everybody ought to see. And we'll do this and then switch over to the debate right after this. Debate watch party starting right after this. This is 1939 Madison Square Garden. Pro-America rally sponsored by the Nazi Party. Madison Square Garden, New York City. George Washington. Trying to co-opt patriotism of the United States.
Undivided allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Under God wasn't in the Pledge of Allegiance at that time, added in the 1950s. So much for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, Sig Heil.
Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Americans, American patriots, I'm sure I do not come before you tonight as a complete stranger. You all have heard of me through the Jewish-controlled press as a creature with horns.
History repeats itself if we don't learn from it, Guy.
We, with American ideals, demand that our government shall be returned to the American people who founded it.
A lot of the same rhetoric.
If you ask what we are actively fighting for under our charter, first, a social just white Gentile world United States. Second, Gentile-controlled labor union free from Jewish Moscow-directed domination.
They were still there. There were Nazis in America all through the Second World War. We put the Japanese in concentration camps. We just, because they weren't white, the Germans were white, so we just made sure we knew where they were, supposedly. Yes, they did, Lori Arnold. $20,000 Americans. Again, this little film comes from, it was an award winner of the Sundance Film Festival for a short. And it's a reminder, just a reminder that if we don't learn from history, we will possibly repeat it. And not only do we have a Oh, great. There we go. Come on. Why's my live not playing? Countdown to the debate. Why is it not playing? Hope it's not blacked out. Let me hang on a second here. Let me do this and pick you back over. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. Error completing your request. Great. Hang on. I got to reboot. Get the debate up. We've got 2 minutes. Thank you for clicking on, and we're going to find out why is this not? We're going to find out who comes out the leading candidate, if it's not going to be Donald Trump. Hopefully. Here we go. And get some volume up here. We'll join Fox News and watch the debate together.
And what a stirring way to begin the first primary debate of this 2024 election season. The candidates are on the stage. Martha and Brett are going to start the questioning in our drone.
Yeah.
As we're right in.
I mean, she almost makes you feel like play ball, right, Harold? I mean, let's go. Let's go inside Fiserv Arena. The people here in Milwaukee have been fantastic, and they are giving us their best tonight. 4,000 strong inside, and you're
hello to everybody
see
watching. Thanks to everybody in the chat. I'm on the phone, so
where we end up
I'm not seeing the entire chat, but thank you all for watching.
Guess, but tonight is the first step in that direction. Enjoy it, America. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Brett and Martha take it from here. Good night.
Some call it the heartland. Others flyover country. But for the 2024 presidential hopefuls, the Midwest is the place to land. Here there is one battleground that may be harder to win than ever. Wisconsin. A state known for its beer and cheese, gridiron and grit, and also its razor-thin elections. In 2016, Republicans narrowly flipped the Badger State red for the first time since Ronald Reagan. But it was back to blue by 2020. That election came during an unprecedented year. The country was rife with tension. In the suburbs of Milwaukee, the division seemed deeper than ever. But that was just the beginning. 2 years later, the U.S. Supreme Court struck down Roe versus Wade, leaving the legality of abortion up to the states. In Wisconsin, that meant a nearly total ban. The power of that issue drove Democrats to the polls this year. Now, that new thin liberal majority on the court could have that abortion issue before it again, just as the race for the White House accelerates.
Hey, Cunning.
Tonight, the Republican
Hey, everybody.
candidates
Thank you
will
again
face
for
off
clicking on. We're
at the
getting
home of the
started.
Bucks
The
and
Republican
Marquette
debate,
Blue
everybody
Eagles.
but
Hoping to
Trump.
return next July
Well, not
to this
everybody.
city on the
Everybody
shore
that
of
qualified.
Michigan to accept the
10 of them,
Republican
that's enough.
nomination at their party's national convention.
Tonight, the race for the White House takes flight. Welcome to the first debate of the 2024 presidential campaign, live at Fiserv Forum in Milwaukee.
8 Republican candidates have qualified and have chosen to be here on our debate stage tonight. They are here to lay out their vision for America, the battle as they battle for the GOP nomination. Good evening, everybody. I'm Martha MacCallum.
And I'm Brett Baer. This is the very same stage on which the Republican choice for president will accept the party's nomination.
You're probably
next summer.
right, Mike.
The 8 contenders are positioned by the order they sit in the polls. with the highest polling candidates in the middle standing center stage. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
Boo. Oh, I'm sorry.
Next, entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy.
Boo.
Former Vice President Mike Pence.
Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley.
Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie.
South Carolina Senator Tim Scott.
Former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson.
And North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum.
They booed Christie and they booed Asa
Some
Hutchinson.
ground rules for tonight. We'll ask the questions, and then candidates get 1 minute to answer. If someone is singled out, you get 30 seconds to respond. And when the time runs out, we all will hear this. Very pleasant.
So tonight, these candidates have a big opportunity to break out of the pack and to explain why they are best prepared to be the Republican choice for president. At a time when the likely Democrat nominee, President Joe Biden, is working to convince the country that with Bidenomics, things are looking up.
They call my plan Bidenomics. I'm not sure they meant it in a totally complimentary way at the time. But guess what? It's working.
But is it? More than 65% of Americans say the country is headed in the wrong direction. And here's the reality for some voters we talked to here in Wisconsin this week.
We have noticed a dramatic increase in prices at the grocery store just across the board.
Gas is high and food is high. A lot of people's out here homeless because they can't buy food.
It's tough when you got mortgage rates at 7-8% versus 2 to 3. It's just you can't afford the house anymore.
Inflation is ridiculous. It's killing us out here.
As we sit here tonight, the #1 song on the Billboard chart is called Rich Men North of Richmond. It is by a singer from Farmville, Virginia, named Oliver Anthony. His lyrics speak of alienation, of deep frustration with the state of government and of this country. Washington, D.C. is about 100 miles north of Richmond.
When are you going to start the debate? I've already done the pre-debate. Come on, let's go.
So, Governor DeSantis, why is this song striking such a nerve in this country right now? What do you think it means?
Our country is in decline. This decline is not inevitable. It's a choice. We need to send Joe Biden back to his basement and reverse American decline. And it starts with understanding we must reverse Bidenomics so that middle-class families have a chance to succeed again. We cannot succeed as a country if you are working hard and you can't afford groceries, a car, or a new home, while Hunter Biden can make hundreds of thousands of dollars on lousy paintings. That is wrong.
I'm sorry, I wouldn't vote for this guy to be president of a freaking fraternity, even at a bad college.
Those rich men north of Richmond have put us in this situation. And finally, we need to lower your gas prices. We're going to open up all energy production. We will be energy dominant again in this country. I showed it could be done in the state of Florida. I pledge to you as your president, we will get the job done, and I will not let you down.
Thank you. Governor Christie, do you agree with Governor DeSantis?
I just see the dude in
there?
Animal
Why would you
House
be
trying to be
better on
president of the
economy
frat.
than him?
Well, look, I do agree predominantly with what Governor DeSantis just laid out. I think that if you asked every one of us up here, that we would agree predominantly with what he just laid out. Here's the difference. The difference is that we're going to have to work and make sure that we sell these ideas. And be able to put ourselves in a position where we get a majority of the vote, not only by winning the Congress and the Senate in 24, but also by having someone who's had the experience of doing it. Now, I was elected as a conservative Republican in a blue state with 61% of the vote, with a Democratic legislature against me the entire time. And we still, through hard, strong decision-making, brought them around to our point of view. We cut taxes in New Jersey. We cut debt in New Jersey. We made sure that each and every time we were confronted with bad Democratic ideas, we stood and stopped them. And when there were good ideas, we brought people together to make progress going forward. Truth and accountability.
When there were Democrat
are the things
ideas,
we
you
need
tried
to
to
do
take
fight
credit for
waste.
us.
And I'd say
What
the
you're
last
saying.
thing is this,
You know,
Brett.
both sides
we
do it.
cannot sit by any longer and allow the kind of spending
point,
that's going
Mike.
on in
What
Washington,
ideas?
because every dollar they spend is a dollar that these people are not allowed to spend on their children and their grandchildren. It's robbing our country, and it's wrong.
Well, Governor, let me just follow up very quickly. New Jersey, when you were governor, had the second lowest credit rating in the nation after Illinois, and it was downgraded 11 times.
Yep. Yeah, and that's what happens when
Yep,
you
yep.
inherit
Well,
a blue state that has done that. But when you look at what we did on debt, Brett, in that state, we cut debt in that state, debt that had been left to us by 3 Democratic gubernatorial predecessors of mine who ran up that debt tremendously. And what you also saw us do was to cut the unemployment rate in half. It was over 10% when I became governor in 2010. What we also did was cut pension payments to public employees to make sure that taxpayers were not being soaked by a public employee union system that was killing the taxpayer.
Thank you, Governor.
Tim Scott, Senator Scott, excuse me. The song also goes after welfare programs. As a senator, now President Biden argued for freezing federal spending, this was back in the 80s, and dealing with sacred cows. He does not talk about that anymore. You have been a senator, though, for 10 years. So what have you done to rein in the increasing size of
Yes,
government?
Bridgegate will
Well, thank
haunt
you for the
Christie,
question.
especially in the
Several years, I've had an
Northeast.
opportunity to vote
And that's
against
where the
spending
New Hampshire
package after
early
spending
primary is.
package after spending package. What we also need to understand is that Joe Biden's Bidenomics has led to the loss of $10,000 of spending power for the average family. When you see 16% inflation, your gas is up 40%, your food is up 20%, your electricity is up 20%. We can stop that by turning the spigot off at Washington, sending the money back to the states, and allowing the decisions to be made at their own houses. I helped write the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act in 2017. We cut taxes for a single mom like the one that raised me by 70%, for dual households by 60%, returning to the average family $4,000.
You cut state taxes
If you don't
in your
send it to
state,
Washington,
possibly,
we can't
but
spend it. That's good news for the American people.
come on now.
Okay, but just to follow up,
You didn't have
did-
anything to do
during
that.
the
You're a
Trump
U.S.
administration,
senator, not
you
a state
approved,
senator.
4.4 trillion, 4.1 trillion,
Yeah.
1.7 trillion over the course of that administration. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
There's no doubt that during the Trump
Whoa, whoa,
administration, when
whoa.
we were dealing with the COVID virus, we spent more money. But here's what happened at the end of our time in the
But don't
majority.
think about that.
We had low
Let's
unemployment,
deflect to the-
record low unemployment, 3.5% for the majority of the population, 70-year low for women. African Americans, Hispanics, and Asians had an all-time low, but our inflation was at 2%. Under Joe Biden, we've seen the exact opposite.
At least they didn't
We've
put
seen
Herschel Walker up.
Inflation explode, which led to 12 Federal Reserve increases that's devastating home buyers today.
Mr. Ramaswamy, you're listening to these answers.
If I may,
Now, hold on
that
one
was our
second. We're going
administration, so I don't know if I get a chance to respond.
He didn't mention you specifically, but we'll be with you in a second, Mr. Vice President. Mr. Ramaswamy, listening to all of this, why should voters choose you over more experienced politicians on this stage? You're basically, a blank slate for people. You're 38 years old. You've said that you only voted in 2 presidential elections before this moment.
I think he's only voted in one.
So first, let me just address a question that is on everybody's mind at home tonight. Who the heck is this skinny guy with a funny last name, and what the heck is he doing in the middle of this debate stage? I'll tell you, I'm not a politician, Brett. You're right about that. I'm an entrepreneur. My parents came to this country with no money.
We've already got
30
one of
years
those,
ago.
pal.
I have gone on
We've
to
already gone
found
this route with Trump.
multi-billion-dollar companies.
Sorry, dude.
I did it while marrying my wife Apollo, raising our 2 sons, following our faith in
Warning,
God.
warning.
That is the American dream. And I am genuinely worried that
Self-serving,
American dream will not
narcissistic.
exist for our two sons.
We've been
and their
down this
generation
road
unless we do
before.
something about it. And I do think Brett is going to take an outsider. Because for a long time, we have professional politicians.
We've been down this road
who have been
before,
running from
4 years
something.
ago.
Now is our moment to start running to something, to our vision of what it means to be an American today. If you have a broken car, you don't turn over the keys to the people who broke it again. You hand it over to a new generation to actually fix the problem. That's why I'm in this race, and we're just getting warmed up.
All right, to you, Governor Haley. So why are you better positioned to
I
turn
used to
around
do
this
great
economy
Ross
that we've
Perot.
heard all
I'd
of
have
these
to
voters
listen to be
talking
able to
about
do him
tonight?
again.
Then Mr. Ramaswamy, who is a successful entrepreneur nationally right now, he's beating you in the polls.
Well, I don't care about polls. What I care about the fact is that no one is telling the American people the truth. The truth is that Biden didn't do this to us. Our Republicans did this to us too. When they passed that $2.2 trillion
Talk about it,
stimulus
Nikki.
bill, they left us with 90 million people on Medicaid, 42 million people on food stamps. No one has told you how to fix it. I'll tell you how to fix it. They need to stop the spending. They need to stop the borrowing. They need to eliminate the earmarks that the Republicans brought back in. And they need to make sure they understand these are taxpayer dollars. It's not their dollars. And while they're all saying this, you have Ron DeSantis, you've got Tim Scott, you've got Mike Pence. They all voted to raise the debt. And Donald Trump added $8 trillion to our debt. And our kids are never going to forgive us for this. And so at the end of the day, you look at the 2024 budget, Republicans asked for $7.4 billion in earmarks. Democrats asked for $2.8 billion. So you tell me who are the big spenders.
All of the
I think
money.
it's time for an accountant in the White House.
Vice President Pence, you were mentioned there.
All right.
54% of voters say
She
the
had a
cost of
strong
groceries
response.
is a, quote, major problem for them.
Right.
You blamed the Biden administration spending for that increase. But as vice president, your administration spent more than any prior, $7.8 trillion added to the national debt, $3.5 trillion of
I
that.
can't believe Karen let him
before
come on the
COVID.
stage by
So
himself
does
with
that mean
another
that you're
woman out
part
there.
of the spending problem?
Well, first off, thanks for the question. Thanks for letting me respond to a reference to our administration's record. I'm incredibly proud of the record of the Trump-Pence administration. I mean, in 4 short years, we rebuilt our military. We revived our economy. We unleashed American energy. And we appointed 3 conservatives to the Supreme Court that gave the American people a new beginning for the right to life. Now, Martha, you asked earlier who's the most best prepared for this job. And I must tell you, with all due respect to all of my friends on the stage, and even to one that's probably looking on, I think unquestionably I'm the best prepared, the most tested, the most qualified and proven conservative in this race. I was a leader in the Congress of the United States.
No, you weren't.
I
No,
led
no, you
Indiana
really
to a
weren't.
balanced
You got
budget that had
beat
a
when you
AAA
ran for
bond
leadership
rating
in the Congress,
when I was
Skippy.
governor. And as vice president
Don't
of the
be talking.
United
I got
States,
your record
we
in
spent
my
funding
head.
to backfill on the military cuts of the Obama administration, and then we were there in the worst pandemic.
That's
in
true,
100
Zippy.
years.
I give
All
him
that
credit
being
for
said,
that.
I
He
was the
saved
first
he
person in
saved
this
our
race
democracy,
to say that we've got
and
to
he
deal
was
with
a
the
hero for
long-term
about 6 or
national
7
debt
minutes.
Issues. You got people on this stage that
Then he
won't even
went
talk
right
about
back to
issues like
sucking
Social
Trump's
Security
ass.
and Medicare.
Apologies to those that
Vivek, you
offended,
recently
but
said,
you know.
a president can't do everything. Well, I got news for you, Vivek. I've been in the hallway. I've been in the West Wing. A president of the United States has to confront every crisis facing America. I will put our nation back on the path to growth and prosperity and restore fiscal responsibility, just as I did in Congress
No,
and
you
as
won't.
governor.
No, you
Vice
won't,
President,
dude.
when I
You
was
ain't
vice
got a
president.
freaking prayer. The
The
Trump people hate you
I'm going to give Vivek first.
We'll get to both of
Yeah,
them.
this is
with a
that
freaking passion,
Unlock American energy. Drill,
and everybody
frack, burn
else
coal, embrace nuclear.
thinks you're
Put people back to work by no longer paying them more to stay at home. Reform the U.S. Fed, stabilize the U.S. dollar, and go to war. The only war that I will declare as U.S. president will be the war on the federal administrative state that is the source of those toxic regulations acting like a wet blanket on the economy. So I'm not sure I exactly understood Mike Pence's comment, but I'll let you all parse that out. For me, it's pretty simple. That's something a U.S. president can do with focus, and I'll deliver on it.
Let me explain it to you.
Okay, what the guy just said was he's not going to declare war on anybody, so it's open for everybody to attack us because he just said he's not going to do a damn thing about it. Do not let this guy anywhere near the White House.
That was the last time we actually reduced the national debt in the United States when I was the leader of House Conservatives. I balanced budgets and cut taxes when I was governor. I mean, look, Joe Biden has weakened this country at home and abroad. Now is not the time for on-the-job training. We don't need to bring in a rookie. We don't need to bring in people without experience. We need to bring...
It's true. He's speaking truth, and Republicans don't like truth.
When you have a rebuttal, okay? And you are up.
He is dangerous. I totally agree. Peace, love, and sunshine. Thank you for being here, by the way. Thank you all for being here. I'll try to be quiet. I can't do it.
It was a mistake. It should have never happened. And in Florida, we led the country out of lockdown. We kept our state free and open. And I can tell you this, as your president, I will never let the deep state bureaucrats lock you down. You don't take somebody like Fauci and coddle him. You bring Fauci in, you sit him down, and you say, Anthony, you are fired.
You know what? We're going to bring in...
I just want to finish responding to Mike. I just want to respond to Mike for 1 second because he invoked me back. Listen, now that everybody's gotten their memorized, pre-prepared slogans out of the way, we can actually have a real discussion now.
Oh.
The reality of the
You gotta have. I bet the dude's got like size 36 shoes on because he's a freaking clown.
A bunch of people, professional politicians, super PAC puppets, following slogans handed over to them by their 400-page super PACs last week. The real choice we face in this primary is this: do you want a super PAC puppet, or do you want a patriot who speaks the truth? Do you want incremental reform, which is what you're hearing about, or do you want revolution?
Okay.
And I stand on the side of the American revolution.
You say you want a revolution. Vote for the guy that has never had any political experience.
There are two people who we have not
Get
heard
your
from.
asses handed to you by Joe Biden.
Well, great, thank you.
Which
Martha.
is sad, but
of course, I'm from a town of 300.
yeah, I'm sorry about that, John.
I'll
I'll back it down. I just get animated.
But when they were all wishing me well, and I think I took them a little too literally when they said go to Milwaukee and break a leg. So,
yeah, how'd you
I
write
do want
that?
to say on this, we're missing something. We can't just talk about the Biden economy because the economy, energy, and national security are all tied together. Of course, we're paying too much for our energy in our state in our country right now. But part of the reason why is because of the Biden policies on energy. We've got a plan right now, the $1.2 trillion of Green New Deal spending buried in the Inflation Creation Act is something that is just subsidizing China. If we're going to stop buying oil from the Middle East and start buying batteries from China, we're just trading OPEC for Sinopec. And then belatedly, the Biden administration says, no, we're going to put sanctions on Russian oil. Well, we put sanctions on Russian oil, well, then it's 20% off. Who's buying it? China. So if you buy a battery in this country, you buy a solar panel, it's being produced in a plant in China powered by coal, or it's being powered by oil and gas at 20% off. And every farmer in this country would like to buy diesel at 20% off, just like they're buying it in China.
Governor Hutchinson, quickly.
Thank you, Grant.
That's the first time I've ever heard that guy talk.
And let me just tell you that I'm a pro-life governor from a conservative state that have a
nobody's being
conservative
disrespectful.
record
It's cool.
in which I lowered taxes in Arkansas as governor. I created a $2 billion surplus that I passed over to my successor, and I made sure that we shrunk the size of government. We have 14% fewer state employees in Arkansas after I left government than when I took over as governor 8 years ago. I tell that because that's what we need in Washington, D.C. We need somebody who can actually constrain the growth of the federal government, that can actually reduce the size, and I've pledged to reduce by 10% our federal non-defense workforce. That's a specific pledge to make that attacks the administrative state. And let me applaud some of the business partners that are here that have had success in business. But let me tell you, I've been a federal prosecutor. I've served our country in terms of being head of the DEA, in Homeland Security, in times of crisis. And while I think that that's experience that is important for the future of our country, to be the President of the United States that can lead with positive solutions and be held accountable.
Thank you. We have a lot of topics to get to, and I promise we're going to get to everyone if we play within the rules. Okay, next topic. More than 1,000 people are still unaccounted for in Maui after the deadliest U.S. wildfire in more than a century. Hawaii's governor and White House officials said that climate change amplified the cost of human error.
And a tropical storm hit California for the first time in 84 years. The ocean hit 101 degrees off the coast of Florida. And in the last month, the heat wave in the Southwest broke records nearly 50 years old.
So Alexander Diaz from Young America's Foundation has a question for you.
Polls consistently show that young people's #1 issue is climate change. How will you, as both President of the United States and leader of the Republican Party, calm their fears that the Republican Party doesn't care about climate change?
So we want to start on this with a show of hands. Do you believe in human behavior is causing climate change? Raise your hand if you do.
Look, we're not school children. Let's have the debate. I mean, I'm happy to take it to start. Alexander,
so do you want to raise your hand or not?
I don't think that's the way to do. So let me just say to Alexander this. First of all, one of the reasons our country's decline is because of the way the corporate media treats Republicans versus Democrats. Biden was on the beach while those people were suffering. He was asked about it. He said no comment. Are you kidding me? As somebody that's handled disasters in Florida, you got to be activated. You've got to be there. You've got to be present. You've got to be helping people who are doing this. And here's the deal.
So is that a yes or is that a yes? Is that a hand raise?
You do not.
I think it was a hand raise for him, and it's my hands are in my pockets.
No.
Climate change agenda is a hoax. Let us be honest as Republicans. I'm the only person on the stage who isn't bought and paid for, so I can say this. The climate change agenda is a hoax. The climate change agenda is a hoax. And we have to declare independence for it. And the reality is, the anti-carbon agenda is the wet blanket on our economy. And so the reality is, more people are dying of bad climate change policies than they are of actual climate change.
Governor Haley, are you bought and paid for?
Is down by 98% in the last century.
Listen. Hold on.
I've had enough. I've had enough already today.
Hey, that's my line.
The guy who sounds like ChatGPT standing up here. And the last person in one of these debates, Brett, who stood in the middle of the stage and said, "What's a skinny guy with an odd last name doing up here?" was Barack Obama, and I'm afraid we're dealing with the same type of amateur standing on stage tonight.
Come over and give me a hug. Give me a hug just like you did to Obama.
The same type of amateur.
And you'll help elect me
Wow.
just like you did to Obama, too. Give me that
The same type of amateur.
Hold on. Governor Haley, would you like to respond? Are you
So,
bought and
Brett,
paid
what
for?
I would like to say is the fact that I think this is exactly why Margaret Thatcher said, if you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman.
Nikki Haley's going up in the polls, I guarantee it.
Clean air, clean water, we want to see that taken care of, but there's a right way to do it. And the right way to do it is, first of all, yes, is climate change real? Yes, it is. But if you want to go and really change the environment, then we need to start telling China and India that they have to lower their emissions. That's where our problem is. And these green subsidies that Biden has put in, all he's done is help China, because he doesn't understand all these electric vehicles that he's done, what that does. Half of the batteries for electric vehicles are made in China. And so that's not helping the environment. You're putting money in China's pocket, and Biden did that. So first of all, I think we need to acknowledge the truth, which is these subsidies are not working. We also need to take on the international world and say, okay, India and China, you've got to stop polluting, and that's when we'll start to deal with
Senator Scott, are you bought and paid for?
Absolutely.
Are you bought
Absolutely,
and
he
paid for?
said.
Are you bought and paid
Absolutely not. I mean, here's what the American people deserve is a debate about the issues that affect their lives. Going back and forth, being childish is not helpful to the American people to decide on the next leader of our country. Number one, wait a second. And number two,
We need to talk about the
as a
weakening
kid
magnetic
who grew up in a
field
single-parent household mired
and
in poverty,
pole
I
shift
wonder, was the American dream
as
real for
impactful
kids
on
who were
climate.
devastated by poverty? devastated by the challenges of life, I came to the conclusion that America can do for anyone what she's done for me if we focus on restoring hope, creating opportunities, and protecting America. If we want the environment to be better, and we all do, the best thing to do is to bring our jobs home from China. If we create 10 million new jobs in my Made in America plan, we will have a better economy and a better environment. Let me tell you why I say that, Brett.
I thought they already rang the bell.
America has cut. I'm a Southern boy. I talk slow. So America, that was quick. America has cut our carbon footprint in half in the last 25 years. The places where they are continuing to increase, Africa, 950 million people. Buddy. India, over 1 billion. China, over 1 billion. Why would we put ourselves at a disadvantage? Devastating our own economy. Let's bring our jobs home.
We have a lot of different topics to get to.
Yeah, we do. We thank you all. Thank you, Senator Scott. So coming up next, the candidates will weigh in on what could be a defining issue in the 2024 campaign. The first Republican debate continues moments away.
All right, we got a commercial break here. They're scared of trans?
We've got to be a lot smarter in how we talk about women and how we show them that we care.
We're going to stand up for the unborn in Washington, D.C. And if you cannot do that, you should not be the nominee for the Republican Party. This is a defining moment.
Okay, we got to pause here. We'll see who runs off stage. Looks like almost all of them have run off stage. Check with your campaign manager. This is what I debated Mike Pence 3 separate times. For those that don't know, you missed the opening. I had one of my speeches from campaign when I ran against Pence. We only had $50,000. He had $1.5 million. He got 51% of the vote. I got 41% of the vote. The rest went to the independent candidates. Nobody else in this state or in this district has ever gotten over 40%. So if I'd had some money, this guy would have never been vice president, and we might have lost the union because somebody else would have been Trump's vice president and might have went along with him. So you're welcome. Anybody, go ahead. Hey, we're on commercial break, so if you got comments or questions or anything, fire them up there into the chat so we can see what's going on. And again, thank you all for watching. I will try to be quiet while the debate's on. I understand. I just, I'm passionate about this. Too many politicians not telling the truth. How do I rate each one's chances? DeSantis is doing better in the debate than I thought. He's been pretty crappy out in public. I think he's better in a prepared environment than he is with actual real people and actual real situations. I think he's rather plastic. The Ramaswamy guy is just proving that he's not ready for this yet. He's probably trying to do this like Buttigieg did in the Democratic thing last time. He's probably trying to do this to get himself a potential cabinet spot because, being mayor of South Bend, Indiana was not going to get you the Democratic nomination for president, but it did get him the spot as Secretary of the Department of Transportation. Pence doesn't have a chance. Trump people hate Pence, and everybody else is pretty tired of Pence. Christie, he might have a chance. Depends. Christie's basing his whole campaign on slamming Trump because Christie doesn't have a lot to run on as his time in governor, in my opinion. So his strategy is to be the most not Trump person. And probably try to tie anybody else on that stage or everyone else on that stage as close as he can tie them to Trump, so he positions himself as the anti-Trump. Asa Hutchinson's trying to do that too. So, you know, Christie's going to be better at that, so he doesn't have any chance. Nikki Haley is going to come out of this debate with a bump. She's gonna go up in the polls a little bit. The governor of North Dakota, this is the first time I've ever heard him talk, and Tim Scott. Tim Scott's up there for diversity. He's not prepared, as you can tell, and as will probably continue to be able to tell. And that's not it's not a racist comment. It's just Republican Party isn't big on diversity, and this is probably their best effort. And you got to try. Here we go. We're back.
Your state, which today confirmed a 6-week abortion law as well, especially the impact on women suburban voters across this country.
Thank you, Martha. I am unapologetically pro-life, not because the Republican Party tells me to be, but because my husband was adopted and I had trouble having both of my children, so I'm surrounded by blessings. Having said that, we need to stop demonizing this issue. This is talking about the fact that unelected justices didn't need to decide something this personal, because it's personal for every woman and man. Now it's been put in the hands of the people. That's great. When it comes to a federal ban, let's be honest with the American people and say it will take 60 Senate votes. It will take a majority of the House. So in order to do that, let's find consensus. Can't we all agree that we should ban late-term abortions? Can't we all agree that we should encourage adoptions? Can't we all agree that doctors and nurses who don't believe in abortion shouldn't have to perform them? Can't we all agree that contraception should be available? And can't we all agree that we are not going to put a woman in jail or give her the death penalty if she gets an abortion? Let's treat this like a respectful issue that it is, and humanize the situation and stop demonizing the situation.
Brett, you're not mentioned, Vice President Pence. Governor DeSantis, you signed a 6-week abortion ban in Florida. One of your biggest financial backers said that you need to, quote, shift to get moderates or you will lose. What do you say to him and others who say politically that is a tough thing to sell nationally?
Well, I would say we sold the biggest election landslide victory in the history of the Republican Party in the state of Florida in 2022. That's what I did. We can win. But second of all, look, you got to do what you think is right. I believe in a culture of life. I was proud to sign the heartbeat bill. I remember one of the most impactful moments of my life was when I heard the heartbeat of my oldest daughter in my wife's womb, and then saw the sonograms of all 3 of my kids. What the Democrats are trying to do on this issue is wrong, to allow abortion all the way up to the moment of birth. I know a lady in Florida named Penny. She survived multiple abortion attempts. She was left discarded in a pan. Fortunately, her grandmother saved her and brought her to a different hospital. We're better than what the Democrats are selling. We are not going to allow abortion all the way up till birth.
Sources.
And we will hold
need
them
sources
accountable
for
their
these stories.
extremism.
But just to be clear, Governor, would you sign a 6-week ban federally?
I'm going to stand on the side of life. Look, I understand Wisconsin is going to do it different than Texas. I understand Iowa and New Hampshire are going to do different. But I will support the cause of life as governor and as president.
Vice President Pence, you're shaking your head.
Have a national.
Hold on, Senator. Vice President Pence, you're shaking your head.
Well, look, I'm not new to this cause.
No, he's not.
After I gave my life to Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, I opened up the book and I read, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. And see, I set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life." And I knew from that moment on the cause
He's
of
more
life had to be
dangerous
my
than
cause.
Trump, everybody.
And I've been
I'm just
a
telling
champion for
you.
life in the Congress, a champion for life as governor and as vice president. And to be honest with you, Nikki, you're my friend, but consensus is the opposite of leadership. When the Supreme Court returned this question to the American people, they didn't just send it to the states only. It's not a states only issue, it's a moral issue. And I promise you, as President of the United States,
the American people will have a champion for life in the Oval Office. Can't we have a minimum standard in every state in the nation that says when a baby is capable of feeling pain, an abortion cannot be allowed? A 15-week ban is an idea whose time has come. It's supported by 70% of the American people, but it's going to take unapologetic leadership that stands on principle and expresses compassion for women in crisis pregnancies. I'll do that as President of the United States.
He called my name, so I will respond to that. 30 seconds. So first of all, I will say it is in the hands of the people, and that's where it should be. But when you're talking about a federal ban, be honest with the American people. We haven't had 45 pro-life senators in over 100 years. So no Republican president can ban abortions any more than a Democrat president could ban all those state laws. Don't make women feel like they have to decide on this issue when you know we don't have 60 Senate votes in the House.
70% of the American people support legislation
but
to ban
70%
abortion
of the
after a
Senate
baby is
does
capable
not.
of experiencing pain. It's just going to take leadership.
Hold on.
70% of the Senate does not. You have to be honest with the American people.
We have to have a 15-week limit.
Let's get Governor Bergman for one minute here. But the Supreme Court did overturn Roe v. Wade, and the result of that decision was that it went back to the states. So that's where it is right now. So as I understand it, you are not in favor of a federal ban. What do you say about the states? There's about 5 of them, including New Jersey, I think a few others, that allow abortion up until the time of birth, though. If you were president, would you be able to abide that?
Well, first of all, I'm a pro-life governor of a very pro-life state. And this issue is, of course, very important. But I am on the record, and I stand behind that we should not have a federal abortion ban. We should not. And the reason why we shouldn't is very simple. It's the 10th Amendment in the Constitution. In the Constitution, which the states created the federal government, not the other way around, it says that there were certain duties allowed to the federal government, delegated to them by the states. The rest are left to the states, or importantly, or to the people. We need to get back to freedom and liberty for the people in this country. And we can't have Republicans who fight for 50 years for this great cause and to return it back to the states, and then the next day they turn around and go, no, the feds should do that, because the feds are stepping into people's lives, they're stepping into people's businesses. Over and over, if we say that the Fed should be in on this one, where do we stop? I say that we follow the Constitution, and this is returned to the states. This is where it should be.
But Governor Burgum, you signed a 6-week ban. Time out. You signed a 6-week ban. Governor Burgum, you signed a 6-week ban. So you're saying federally, it's all going to go to the states.
Yes, and what is going to work in New York will never work in North Dakota, and vice versa. That's why 50 states. That's why 50 states.
This is too important of an issue that I have to address. First of all, the Supreme Court gave it back to the elected representatives, whether it's the states or whether it's the United States Congress. So there is authority, and that's why President Biden is pushing for a Democrat proposal, which is, in essence, abortion on demand through the term. So they have their extreme position at a national level.
Yes, leave it up to the women and the doctors.
It's most likely going to be addressed in the states, but it's certainly fine for it to be addressed at the national level as well. Arkansas has the record of being the most pro-life state in the nation. I signed 30 pro-life pieces of legislation while I was governor. And every state can determine a different outcome here. And it is the most important issue for women and for the unborn child and for our country that we get this right. It's going to be a continued debate. Let's talk about it in terms of compassion, in terms of protecting the life, and also understanding how we have to enhance adoption services, how we have to enhance maternal care. Those things we've done in Arkansas and are important for our nation's future.
There are a lot of issues.
How about just trusting a woman to do what she thinks best for her?
Thank you. We cannot let states like California, New York, and Illinois have abortions on demand up until the day of birth. That is immoral. It is unethical. It is wrong. We must have a president of the United States who will advocate and fight for, at the minimum, a 15-week limit. I am 100% pro-life conservative. I have a 100% pro-life record. I got to tell you though,
15
we
weeks,
must
that's 4 months.
fight for life. Our
That's,
Declaration
you know,
of Independence says our Creator gave us inalienable rights that include life. That is a list. That is an issue we must solve. We can't leave it to Illinois. We can't leave it to Minnesota.
How
We
about
can't
just
leave
leave
it
it
to
to the
Illinois.
woman?
We must solve that issue with a 15-week limit at a minimum.
Thanks,
Brett, I
Senator.
think we're all pro-life, but
Thank
what
you.
I would love is for someone to ask Biden and Kamala Harris, are they for 38 weeks? Are they for 39 weeks? Are they for 40 weeks? Because that's what the media needs to be asking.
All right, another issue is America and the crime crisis, the homelessness crisis. American cities are in decline. People are moving out as homelessness, drugs, crime move in. There are problems accelerated. They did accelerate during the pandemic and are still rising, actually.
Murders in Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, all up 30% between 2019 and 2022. Homelessness is up 11%, the largest jump in recorded history. Vice President Pence, a lot of this began in the COVID era. How much of what we're seeing happening around this country is a result of those COVID lockdowns, and is your administration in part to blame for how we got here?
Well, I think what's in part to blame is the Democrats been talking about defunding the police for the last 5 years.
And that's
And
created
we ought to be
homelessness.
funding law enforcement, particularly in our major cities, at unprecedented levels.
The houseless are.
I mean, it's extraordinary to think
because
about
of
the
defunding the
violence
police,
that's claiming
that's the
innocent
correlation.
lives literally every week in every major city in this country. And yet Democrats and liberal prosecutors in major metropolitan areas continue to work out their fanciful agendas, to do bail reform and go easy. What we need is strong commitment to law enforcement. We need leadership in Washington, D.C. that will marshal the resources of the states, marshal the resources of the American people. But let me also say it's about opportunity. I mean, a lot of people don't know that those Trump-Pence tax cuts that we got signed into law go away at the end of 2025 if we don't have a Republican president and a Republican House and a Republican Senate. When I'm president of the United States, we're actually going to cut taxes further. We're going to extend those tax cuts, and we're going to close the Federal Department of Education.
I know who made that
all
flyer
the
Sunday
funding back
days.
to the states with a
You're
growing
right.
economy and educational choice and law enforcement. We will bring our cities back.
Governor Christie, another issue. This weekend here in Milwaukee, reports say there were 30 shootings, and a number of them including kids. Add that to the big increase in school shootings around the country.
30
Democrats blame this crisis on easy access to guns. They also blame Republicans for blocking gun control legislation. What would President Christie do?
You know, I'm proud of the fact, Brett, that I'm the only person along with Governor Hutchinson up on this stage who's actually running United States Attorney's Office. I ran the 5th largest office in America in a state where there is significant urban crime. And the problem is not going to be solved by more money. The problem is that these prosecutors in these localities in the states are refusing to do their job and to arrest violent criminals. So what a President Christie would do is appoint an attorney general who would instruct each of the 93 U.S. attorneys that they are to take over the prosecution of violent crime in every one of those cities that are failing to do so. We have plenty of room in the federal prisons to lock up these violent criminals and clean up what's going on all across this country in these individual cities. Secondly, what we need to make sure that each and every one of these criminals understand is that the laws apply to everybody. And when Hunter Biden fills out a fake application, a false application for a gun permit, and then is facing a 10-year mandatory minimum, which was mandated by legislation sponsored by his father, and then you have a Justice Department that walks away from those charges, we're telling people that the law doesn't apply to everybody. In the Christie administration, he would go to jail for 10 years.
What about a President Ramaswamy? What does a President Ramaswamy do about guns?
So the reality is we have a crime wave in this country and we know how to fix it. The question is, do we actually have the spine to do it? More cops in the streets who are on the streets able to do their jobs without looking over their shoulder for getting sued. And we also have a mental health epidemic in this country. Just over the same period that we have closed mental health institutions, we have seen a spike in violent crime. Do we have the spine to bring
You're
him
right,
back? I
guy.
think we should. As president, I will. But it's not just drugging up people in those psychiatric institutions with Zoloft and Seroquel. It's a deeper issue. I think faith-based approaches can play a role here, too. We're in the middle of a national identity crisis. And I say this as a member of my generation. The problem in our country right now, the reason we have that mental health epidemic, is that people are so hungry for purpose and meaning at a time when family, faith, patriotism, hard work have all disappeared. What we really need is a tonal reset from the top, saying that this is what it means to be an American. Yes, we will stand for the rule of law. Yes, we will close the southern border where criminals are coming in every day. And yes, we will back law enforcement because we remember who we really are. And that's also how we address that mental health epidemic in the next generation that is directly leading to violent crime
Can I
across
speak
this
up?
country.
Governor DeSantis, really quickly. Governor DeSantis.
We don't have an identity crisis, Vivek. We're not looking for a new national identity. The American people are the most faith-filled, freedom-loving, idealistic, hard-working people the world has ever known. We just need government as good as our people.
Well, Mike, I think the difference is you might have, some others like you may have on the stage, it's Morning in America speech. It is not Morning in America. We live in a dark moment, and we have to confront the fact that we're in an internal, sort of cold cultural civil war. And we have to
equating the
recognize
American
that
people
in order
with
to
the
actually
failed
win.
government in Washington, D.C. We just need government as good as our people again.
So let me just finish addressing that slogan because I don't know what that slogan means. We need to shut down the administrative state. That's actually how we translate.
Crime has been on the rise in Florida, Governor DeSantis. How do you stop crime?
Well, actually, crime's at a 50-year low
Not
in
in-
Florida.
not in Miami.
We're happy with that. Well, the statewide, it's a 50-year low. And so here's the thing. These hollowed out cities, this is a symptom of America's decline. And one of the biggest reasons is because you have George Soros funding these radical left-wing district attorneys. They get into office and they say they're not going to prosecute crimes they disagree with. The inmates start running the asylum. There's one guy in this entire country that's ever done anything about that. Me. When we had two of these district attorneys in Florida elected with Soros funding who said they wouldn't do their job, I removed them from their posts. They are gone.
You're about to get your ass handed to you by Mickey Mouse, pal.
As president, we are going to go after all of these people because they are hurting the quality of life and they are victimizing innocent people in every corner of this country, and it will stop when I get into office.
Okay. One more here before the break, Governor Brogan.
Brett and Martha, I just thought it was interesting. You asked your question about the problems we're having in big cities. Nobody ever asked the question of what about the crime wave in small towns? Because in a small town, neighbors help neighbors. People understand each other. If a farmer gets sick, everybody comes together and helps him get the crop off. There's accountability. There's transparency. One thing that I think this country could use is somebody in the White House that understands small town values, because that's our road back to get this country on track again.
Governor Hutchinson.
As former head of the DEA, I understand the drug crisis in America. And right now, whenever you look at the challenges in our inner city, there's three simple words that would be helpful. One, enforce the law when it comes to crime. Secondly, let's deal with the challenge of fentanyl. And it's both about stopping the fentanyl coming from Mexico, but it's also about education of our young people, making sure that we have the tools that are needed for addiction counseling. That's what we expanded in Arkansas as well. Whenever you look at the underlying challenge of America, though, no one likes to see an America with smash and grab in our inner cities. As President of the United States, that will stop. It starts at the top with the respect for our justice system that a former president who's under indictment has undermined by attacking judges, by attacking prosecutors, by attacking the system and saying he's aggrieved. And so we have to have respect for our justice system and the rule of law, and it starts at the top with the President of the United States.
Thank you. Hold on.
Take a break. So, speaking of that, right now you are looking live at Fulton County Jail, where former President Donald Trump will be processed tomorrow. So next, the candidates will have an opportunity to talk about the coming trials of Donald Trump.
Oh, good. We're going to talk Trump coming up. This will be interesting. We're going on break here. So, again, time for questions or comments or anything. Fulton County super easy reduction of the federal law enforcement and corrections and judicial branch budget, increasing the change. Nice smart mouth, Martha. Fulton County, Georgia is unique in that you can turn yourself in anytime, 24 hours a day, if you have an outstanding warrant or an indictment. And some of the people have been turning themselves in late at night. Word is Trump's going to turn himself in tomorrow night. So I'll be back on. We'll be doing this again tomorrow night, watching for the perp walk of Donald Trump into the Fulton County Sheriff's Department. See if he is greeted like Giuliani was today, with handshakes. And we know there are two systems of justice, if you will, in our country. We've known that for a long time. It's on full display now. I don't know how many of you out there have ever been arrested, but you generally don't get to negotiate your bail before you go to the jail. Anyway, if you have money, it's a different legal system in many situations. I'm not saying I talk a lot about being monolithic, being, everything's everything. Every white person is this, every black person is this, every cop is this, and it's easy to fall into that. The concept of putting the same attributes you see on one person on all people that look like that, and it has become way too normalized, in my opinion. But anyway, back to the debate stuff. So Trump's going to be turning himself in. I'm going to be coming on. I'm going to come on at 8 o'clock tomorrow night, and that should be right about the time. Hopefully not going to be doing a half-hour long pre-show. And if he does come on earlier than that, then I'll come on as soon as I find out he's coming on. So there'll be a place to hang and watch that tomorrow night and comment along as we watch, and then comment along afterwards if you are so inclined. Nikki Haley, I think, is winning the debate thus far. Pence is trying, and he's trying to come across as something he's just not, and he doesn't have any hope. I'm sorry, I don't think he'll ever get to double digits. He may not even be on the next debate stage. I don't know. Depends how this plays out, this last segment, because in a recent poll, 71% of the Republican Party's people that responded said that they trusted Trump and Trump alone for their information. They didn't trust their family or friends, and they didn't trust mainstream media, only Trump. So that's kind of, I think it'll be kind of telling how the next segment here, when Trump is the front and center topic, Christie's going to try to tie anybody that speaks favorably of Trump. Christie's going to try to tie them to him, and that's Pence's. That's Pence's Achilles heel. He's too closely tied to Trump. It's not like Trump's going anywhere, except maybe to jail. And according to a lot of people, even if he's in jail, it's not going to matter. We'll see. Let's get back to the debate. Here we go.
Well, we have a lot to get to in this second hour of this GOP primary debate. Policy discussions the Americans want to hear you all on. China, Ukraine, immigration, education. But we are going to take a brief moment and talk about the elephant not in the room.
He called Donald Trump an
President
elephant.
Trump has been indicted in 4 different states on 91 counts. He will be processed tomorrow in Georgia at the Fulton County Jail for charges relating to the 2020 election loss.
You all signed a pledge to support the eventual Republican nominee. If former President Trump is convicted in a court of law, would you still support him as your party's choice? Please raise your hand if you would. Just hold on. So just to be clear, Governor Christie, you were kind of late to the game there, but you raised your hand?
No, I'm doing this. Look, I'm doing this.
And
not
I know
this.
you didn't.
Well, no, come. What's and look, look, here's the bottom line. Someone's got to stop normalizing this conduct. Okay? Now, whether or not you believe that the criminal charges are right or wrong, the conduct is beneath the office of President of the United States. And you know, this is the great thing about this country. Booing is allowed, but it doesn't change the truth. It doesn't change the truth.
Mr. Ramaswamy, you raised your hand supporting.
This is
I'd like
weird.
to get in and respond. Let's just speak the truth, okay? President Trump, I believe, was the best president of the 21st century. It's a fact. And Chris Christie, honest to God, your claim that Donald Trump is motivated by vengeance and grievance would be a lot more credible if your entire campaign were not based on vengeance and grievance against one man. And if people at home want to see a bunch of people blindly bashing Donald Trump without an iota of vision for this country, they could just change the channel to MSNBC right now.
Hey,
but I'm not running
Christine.
for president of MSNBC. I am running for president of the United States. We're skating on thin ice, and we cannot set a precedent where the party in power uses
Great
police
question.
force to indict its political opponents. It is wrong. We have to end the weaponization of justice in this country.
30 seconds, Governor DeSantis.
Let me tell you
I'm
something.
sorry. 30 seconds, Governor
You
Christie.
make me laugh because
Go
you
both
sit
ways, brother.
here in an answer. You sit here in an answer. Right? You sit here in an answer.
Go ahead, Governor Christie.
Hold on, Governor Christie.
Hold on.
Well, so listen, the more time we spend doing this, the less time they can talk about issues
Oh,
you
you
want
think,
to
Lori
talk
Arnold?
about. So let's just get through this section. Governor Christie.
You sit here talking about how you want to stand up for the rule of law.
Yes.
And law and order. And the fact is that it can't be selective. In your book, you had much different things to say about Donald Trump than you're saying here tonight.
That's not true.
No, it is very true.
That is not
It's
true.
very true. I read it, and
Because
I
there's a
know.
difference
Look,
between
I
bad
got it.
behavior and illegal
By the way,
behavior, Chris, and you as a
by the way,
prosecutor should know better.
You know what? I know a lot
There's
better.
a difference between
I
bad
know,
behavior. And
I know a lot better than you do. You've never done it like you've never done anything to try to advance the interests of this government except to put yourself forward as a candidate tonight. And here's the thing. We've stood up for law and order. I did it as U.S. Attorney. I did it as governor. And I am not going to bow to anyone when we have a president of the United States who disrespects the Constitution. He said,
You're MSNBC contributor.
he said,
These are politicized indictments, and we have to call out the truth.
Martha, it's important to say that the president said, Donald Trump said, it's okay to suspend the Constitution. Now, the oath you take is to preserve, protect, and defend, not suspend. I will always stand up for our Constitution regardless of the political pressure.
We have another question for you. We're going to get everyone in on this issue.
I
but
agree,
have another
Zippy.
question. I have another question. Hold on, you will. All right, so President Trump's former vice president is on this stage tonight. He has faced hecklers on the campaign trail over his actions on January the 6th. On that day, the vice president moved forward with the certification of the election. So do you believe that Mike Pence did the right thing, Senator Scott? Do you believe he did the right thing?
Absolutely. He did the right thing. Number one. Number two, we should be asking ourselves a bigger question about the weaponization of the Department of Justice. When I'm president, the first thing I'll do is fire Merrick Garland. Second thing I'll do, fire Christopher Wray, because we need Lady Justice to wear a blindfold. Without that, no one has confidence in our justice system. 17% of Republicans have confidence in our Department of Justice. Here's why. We keep seeing not only the weaponization of the Department of Justice against political opponents, but also against parents who show up at school board meetings. They're called, under this DOJ, they're called domestic terrorists.
Firing Christopher
But that's not, but that's not
shut down the FBI. Actually have the courage to get it right.
Mr. Let me finish my comments.
Yes.
Not only that, in addition to that, we see the SWAT team show up at pro-life activist homes with guns drawn because this DOJ uses their power, uses their authority, not just against political opponents, but against conservatives and conservative causes. It is time for a change in America, and I will bring that change to the greatest nation on God's green earth.
We have an important.
But Governor DeSantis, do you believe that Mike Pence did the right
He's trying
thing
to be
on
the
January 6th?
Republican
Here's what we
Obama.
need to do. We need to end the weaponization of these federal agents.
But that's not
I
the
will do
question.
that.
That's not the question.
I know, but here's the thing.
Answer the
This
question.
election is not about January 6th of 2021. It's about January
10 years.
20th of 2025 when the next president is going to take office. I know what the Democrats would like to do. They want to talk about all these other issues, but we've got to focus on your future. We've got to focus on reversing the decline of our country. I learned in the military, I was assigned with U.S. Navy SEALs in Iraq, that you focus on the mission above all else. You can't get distracted. So Republicans,
Did he say he
we've
was
got to look
with the
forward,
US Navy
and we've got to
SEALs?
make sure that we're bringing the message that can win in
Vice
November
President,
Did not answer the
2021.
question. Did not answer the question.
Vice President Pence,
I think there might have been some stolen valor there.
is to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. I think the American people deserve to know whether everyone on this stage agrees that I kept my oath to the Constitution that day. There's no more important duty. So answer the question.
I've answered this before.
So yes.
Why are we? Mike did his duty. I got no beef with him. But here's the thing: is this what we're going to be focusing on
I'm relieved.
going forward? The rehashing of this? I'll tell you,
Governor
the
DeSantis,
Democrats would love that, and they
spent-
will win if we
Governor
let them get away
DeSantis,
with it. I'm not letting Biden hang out in the basement this time. We're going to run him ragged around this country, and we're going to hold him accountable.
let me just say, Governor DeSantis, we spent an hour talking about policy. Former President Trump is beating you by 30, 40 points in many polls. So it is a factor in the GOP primary. Governor Hutchinson, you did not raise your hand.
I did not raise my hand because there's an important issue we as a party have to face. And over a
Oh, I
year
forgot
ago,
about
I
the
said that
Jags.
Donald
No, I
Trump
was thinking he
morally
wasn't.
disqualified
I
from
was
being
thinking he wasn't
president
a
again
Navy
as a
SEAL.
result of what happened on January 6th. More people are understanding the importance of that.
I forgot
including
about the
conservative
Judge
legal
Advocate
scholars
General's.
who says he may be disqualified under the 14th Amendment from being president again as a result of the insurrection. This is something that could disqualify him under our rules and under the Constitution. And so, obviously, I'm not going to support somebody who's been convicted of a serious felony or who is disqualified under our Constitution, and that's consistent with RNC rules. And I hope everybody would agree with me.
We're running we're gonna.
Martha, can I answer the question?
Can I get in on that?
Okay, I'd like to answer.
I've already been on it, Vice President Pence.
All right, I'd like to answer the question you asked and not give a pre-canned speech. Mike Pence stood for the Constitution, and he deserves not grudging credit. He deserves our thanks as Americans for putting his oath of office and the Constitution of the United States before personal, political, and unfair pressure. And the argument that we need to have in this party before we can move on to the issues that Ron talked about is we have to dispense with the person who said that we need to suspend the Constitution to put forward his political career. Mike Pence said no, and he deserves credit for it.
Okay. Governor Haley, we haven't heard from you on this. Do you agree? Do you agree that Vice President Pence did the right thing that day or not?
I do think that Vice President Pence did the right thing, and I do think that we need to give him credit for that. But what I will also tell you is, look, I mean, when it comes to whether President Trump should serve or not, I trust the American people. Let them vote. Let them decide. But what they will tell you is that it is time for a new generational conservative leader. We have to look at the fact that 3/4 of Americans don't want a rematch between Trump and Biden. And we have to face the fact that Trump is the most disliked politician in America. We can't win a general election that way.
She's telling the truth and he gets booed. That's what's been happening. But
Happy to answer the question. Mike Pence did the right thing on January 6th. But I want to say, you started off the top of this hour saying we're going to talk about China, Ukraine, education. We are. China is the number one threat to our country, and every minute that these 8 candidates spend talking about the past instead about the future is time that is just, you know who loves it? Biden loves it, but China loves it when we're talking about the past.
Okay, as promised, we were going to spend a few questions on it, let people say what they wanted to say, and now, indeed, we are moving on to the subject.
The U.S. has committed nearly 77...
Can I speak on this issue? I was
You did answer on this.
You did say
answer.
something.
Yeah.
We thought you were done, but you
no,
please.
I wasn't done.
Well, Mike, why don't you say this? Join me in making a commitment that on day one you would pardon Donald Trump. I'm the only candidate on the stage who had the courage to actually say it. That is how we move our nation forward.
I don't know
and
why
turn the
you
page
assume
forward.
that
That's
Donald
exactly
Trump
right.
will be convicted of these crimes.
You should be able to make a commitment. The same justice system that was this corrupt.
There's a difference between you and me.
Yeah, I'm not a professional politician. That's the difference. You can answer a question.
I've actually given pardons when I was governor of the state of Indiana. It usually follows a finding of guilt and contrition by the individual that's been convicted. So, look, if I'm president of the United States, we'll give fair consideration to any pardon request. But if I may, you know, it's not about looking back at January 2021. It's about January 20th, 2017. I put my left hand on Ronald Reagan's Bible. I raised my right hand. And I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. And it ended with a prayer, so help me God. It was a promise that I made to the American people, but I also made it to my Heavenly Father. Every day for 4 years, I sought to keep that oath. And everyone on this stage needs to make it clear whether or not they'll do the same if they earn this job and the confidence of the American people. Now, look, I've made it clear. I had hoped that the issues surrounding the 2020 election and the controversies around January 6th had not come to this, had not come to criminal proceedings. I would rather they had been resolved by the American people and the American people alone. But no one's above the law, and President Trump is entitled to the presumption of innocence that every American is entitled to, and we will make sure and extend that to him. But the American people deserve to know that the president asked me in his request that I reject or return votes unilaterally, power that no vice president in American history had ever exercised or taken. He asked me to put him over the Constitution. And I chose the Constitution, and I always will. I had no right to overturn the election, and Kamala Harris will have no right to overturn the election when we beat them in 2024.
Thank you, Vice President Pence. Now we are moving on to other issues. The U.S. has committed nearly $77 billion in aid to the Ukraine war. The administration is now asking Congress for $24 billion more. Regardless of that, the specifics of that plan, is there anyone on stage who would not support the increase of more funding to Ukraine?
We would not support it.
Europe needs to step up. I mean, I would have Europe step up and do their job.
Mr. Ramaswamy, but you're saying you would not too, Governor DeSantis?
I will have Europe pull their weight.
Right now, they're not doing
you
that.
would not support
and I think
more
we need
funding?
to do, and I think our support should be contingent on them doing it. And I would have support in China to be able to take China and do what we need to do with China.
Mr. Ramaswamy, you would not support an increase of funding to Ukraine?
I would not. And I think that this is disastrous, that we are protecting against an invasion across somebody else's border when we should use those same military resources to prevent across the invasion of our own southern border here in the United States of America. We are driving Russia further into China's hands. The Russia-China alliance is the single greatest threat we face. And I find it offensive that we have professional politicians on the stage that will make a pilgrimage to Kyiv, to their Pope, Zelensky, without doing the same thing for people in Maui or the south side of Chicago or Kensington. I think that we have to put the interests of Americans first, secure our own border instead of somebody else's. And the reality is, this is also how we project strength by making America strong at home.
We heard the names. Governor Christie first.
All right, look, I did go to Ukraine, and I went to Ukraine because I wanted to see for myself what Vladimir Putin's army was doing to the free Ukrainian people. And let me tell you, I want you all to look around this arena tonight and imagine that every one of these seats was filled. And if every one of them was filled, there would still be 2,500 more children outside to make over 20,000 who have been abducted, stolen, ripped from their mothers and fathers, and brought back to Russia to be programmed to fight their own families. They have gouged out people's eyes, cut off their ears, and shot people in the back of the head, men, and then gone into those homes and raped the daughters and the wives who were left as widows and orphans. This is the Vladimir Putin. This is the Vladimir Putin who Donald Trump called brilliant and a genius. If we don't stand up against this type of autocratic killing in the world, we will be next.
You were mentioned.
Governor Haley, we'll come back.
Vice President Pence was mentioned. You get 30 seconds.
Yeah, well, let me be clear. Anybody that thinks that we can't solve the problems here in the United States and be the leader of the free world has a pretty small view of the greatest nation on earth.
That is incorrect.
We can do both, Vivek. We've done both. We've been the leader of the free world and the arsenal of democracy for years. The Reagan Doctrine years ago made it clear. We said, if you're willing to fight the communists on your soil, we'll give you the means to fight them there so our troops don't have to fight them. Vivek, if we do the giveaway that you want to give to Putin to give him his land, it's not going to be too long before he rolls across a NATO border, and frankly, our men and women of our armed forces are going to have to go and fight him. I want to let the Ukrainians fight and drive Putin and the Russians back out into Russia.
I want to just briefly address Pence, Vice President Pence. I have a newsflash. The USSR does not exist anymore. It fell back in 1990. The real threat. You talked about the communists, and the real communists that we have to address right now
have any idea what Vladimir Putin's aims are.
You already spoke. Now I actually have something to say.
Vladimir Putin has been saying he wants to reestablish the old Soviet sphere of influence.
Yes, he has.
I'm sorry if I insulted him by calling him a communist. He is a dictator and a murderer, and the United States of America needs to stand against authoritarianism.
Mr. Ramaswamy, 30 seconds.
Respond. The real threat we face today is communist China.
I know you don't like him.
And we are driving Russia further into China's arms. The Russia-China military alliance is the single greatest threat we face. Nobody in either political party is talking about it. And I am the only non-neocon on this stage. But keep us out of war.
Mr. Vice President, we can't hear. Mr. Vice President,
to give Russia everything they've got.
Mr. Vice President,
give them a promise that Ukraine will never be in NATO, and then somehow China will not think about taking Taiwan. We achieve peace through strength.
Mr. Vice President,
America needs to stand for freedom.
Okay, here we go.
I think we need to establish some ground rules here.
When we hear this bell, that means your time's done. So, Mr. Vice President, we appreciate your aggressiveness here. 30 seconds is 30 seconds. Mr. Ramaswamy, you were mentioned. You get 30 seconds.
So the reality is that today, Ukraine is not a priority for the United States of America. And I I think that the same people who took us into the Iraq War, the same people who took us into the Vietnam War, you cannot end it. You cannot start another no-win war. And I do not want to get to the point where we're sending our military resources abroad when we could be better using them here at home to protect our own borders, protect the homeland.
All right.
That will be my top priority in foreign
I
policy.
think we gave you
Protect
more
this
than the 30
homeland.
seconds in the rebut. So I do want to get to some other people because everybody, we respect everybody's time here. So, Governor Haley, you did not raise your hand, meaning that you would support more funding for the Ukraine war. You have said of Governor DeSantis that you didn't appreciate it when he initially called it a territorial dispute. Why?
First of all, the American president needs to have moral clarity. They need to know the difference between right and wrong. They need to know the difference between good and evil. When you look at the situation with Russia and Ukraine, here you have a pro-American country that was invaded by a thug. So when you want to talk about what has been given to Ukraine, less than 3.5% of our defense budget has been given to Ukraine. If you look at the percentages per GDP, 11 of the European countries have given more than the U.S. But what's really important is go back to when China and Russia held hands, shook hands before the Olympics, and named themselves unlimited partners. A win for Russia is a win for China. We have to know that. Ukraine is the first line of defense for us. And the problem that Vivek doesn't understand is he wants to hand Ukraine to Russia. He wants to let China eat Taiwan. He wants to go and stop funding Israel. You don't do that to friends. What you do instead is you have the backs of your friends. Ukraine is the front line of defense. Putin has said once Russia takes Ukraine, Poland and the Baltics are next. That's a world war. We're trying to prevent war. Look at what Putin did today. He killed Prigozhin. When I was at the UN, the Russian ambassador suddenly died. This guy is a murderer, and you are choosing a murderer over a pro-American country.
First of all, Mr. Ramaswamy, you have 30 seconds. Mr. DeSantis,
Nikki, I wish you well in your future career on the boards of Lockheed and Raytheon.
No, I'm not on
but
the
fact
boards
of the matter,
Lockheed and Raytheon, and you
Boeing came off the
Okay, this guy's just a troll. Rob Swami's nothing but he's a troll. He's just trolling. He's not on here for real.
I'm glad you
You
brought
want
that
to
up.
go and give
I'm going to
Ukraine
address
money?
each of those This is the false lies of a professional politician. There you have it.
Your watch,
So
you
the
make
reality is,
America less than you have no foreign policy experience, and it shows.
and you know what?
It
The
shows.
foreign policy experience that you and I have shows in the pointless wars we've gotten into. I have to address that. So our relationship with Israel, where it never
Know him when we see him, don't we, Baldy? Thank you for being here.
But it's not a client relationship. It is a friendship. And you know what friends do? Friends help each other stand on their own 2 feet. So I will lead Abraham Accords 2.0. I will partner with Israel to make sure Iran never is nuclear armed. But you know what I love about Israel? And I've been there probably in the last 10 years more than most people on this stage. You know what I love about them? I love their border policies. I love their tough on crime policies. I love that they have a national identity and an iron dome to protect their homeland. And so, yes, I want to learn from the friends that we're supporting. And what puzzles
you wanna
me
cut the
is, I want to learn from
let me
those and
tell
apply
you,
those to protect
it's
our
not
homeland,
that
Nikki.
Israel
That is
needs
the answer.
America. America needs Israel.
Okay,
They are
Governor
the
DeSantis, Governor DeSantis, you were mentioned in the territorial dispute. Not only
No, it's not a territorial dispute
President of the
either.
United States, your first obligation is to defend our country and its people. And that means you're sending all this money, but you're not doing what we need to do to secure our own border. We have tens of thousands of people
We can
who
do
are
both
being
at the
killed
same
because, well, we're
time.
not handling both. And so
Hello to Sam Singe as well, Dr. Singe. Good to see you
I'm not
here.
going to send troops to Ukraine,
trying to
but
talk
I am going to
quiet.
send them to our southern border. When these drug pushers are bringing fentanyl across the border, that's going to be the last thing they do. We're going to use force, and we're going to leave them stone cold dead.
we're actually going
Again,
to
I still
move on
think
to
this
China.
guy's running
We're gonna
for
talk about China.
president of Delta Fraternity
China
in
has the biggest
Animal
Navy
House.
in the world, the biggest army in the world. Now they have warships off the coast of Alaska. They are threatening Taiwan. In coming years, China will have 1,500 nuclear warheads, it's believed. The U.S. just arrested 2 sailors accused of spying for China within our military. So the question is, how would you deter China as a president, Berger?
Well,
this is the number one issue we're facing. And of course, we haven't been talking about it, and we act like that letting Russia win in the Ukraine is like a gimme as opposed to a gift to China.
Hey,
Russia
Summer.
has become China's gas station. But how would we do it? The Biden administration is a complete fail. China imports 10 million barrels of oil a day, more than any other country in the world. They do not even have the food they need to feed everybody in that country. So they don't have energy security, food security. But the Biden administration sends Blinken, Yellen over there. They're over there. They don't even bring up energy because they're too busy trying to kill the U.S. energy here. And what we need to do is not meetings, not press releases, because something that would send a lot more than a press release is actually Harpoon missiles. We need anti-ship missiles on Taiwan. The way that you have a war never start, which is the goal, the way you have peace through strength, is that you actually have strength. You actually have deterrence. And what we have in what we've got going on in Ukraine is an example of when deterrence fail. What is an example there of Biden's disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, the fact that he greenlighted Putin moving into Ukraine, and then now they see weakness, and when they see weakness, they make a move. And we have to be strong, and we have to be strong both in Ukraine, and we can solve the southern border. Absolutely, we can do that, because guess what? There's only 19,855 authorized people for the Border Patrol, but they're not all staff because the Biden administration doesn't enforce law enforcement. But Biden administration wanted to put 87,000 people in the IRS as opposed to giving the money in this fort we need to our own Border Patrol.
You guys get Al Pacino eyebrows.
That same question.
Let's fire the 87,000 IRS agents and hire or double the number of Border Patrol agents. I just left Yuma, Arizona about 2 weeks ago. The most pressing need of the American people from a national security standpoint is our southern border. It has led to the death of 70,000 Americans because of fentanyl, plus 6 million illegal crossings since President Biden has taken office, and 200 people on our national security watch list have been caught at our border. How many have not been caught at our southern border? If we just spend $10 billion, we could finish the wall. For $5 billion more, we could have the military-grade technology to surveil our southern border to stop the flow of fentanyl and save 70,000 Americans a year. That should be the priority of this government. And as the next president of the United States, I will make that border wall complete.
There are many more questions on China. I do want to ask about.
I want to say I couldn't agree more. It's not just the 70,000 from fentanyl. We've lost 200,000 people to overdoses since Biden took office. That's 300 people a day. We're taking mass casualties, and that's a statistic, but these are sons and daughters, nieces and nephews that we're losing. We've got North Dakota troops down there flying night helicopter missions from San Diego to the Gulf Coast, trying to stop these transnational criminal organizations. They've got better funding on their side than we've got on our side.
Speaking of which, Governor Hutchinson,
I'm more concerned about the Chinese coming across the border personally.
Vice President Pence, images from earlier this month. Vice President Pence, it really doesn't help. I'm asking a question. Earlier this month, images showed suspected cartel members crossing into Texas with rifles. Do you consider this an invasion? Would you authorize lethal force along that border?
There would be lethal force used by the Border Patrol, law enforcement as needed to protect the border. Absolutely. When you look at the military has to be used for intelligence gathering purposes. This is not unusual. Whenever I was in the Bush administration, we went down there and met with President Vicente Fox of Mexico and asked his help in going after the cartels. And he looked at me and said, they're a problem to us as well. And so we joined together and we took down the Ariana Felix brothers leading the Tijuana cartel, and that made a difference. Ramon was shot and killed, and Ben Amin was captured. Cooperation makes a difference. We cannot be successful going against the cartel unless we bring in Mexico as a partner. We have to use economic pressure to accomplish that. President Obrador has not been helpful, and we have to use economic pressure that this administration is not using. The rule of law has to
Mexico's
matter on
actually
both
turning
sides
more
of
to
it.
Russia and
This
China.
is critical. I've done it. We know what needs to be done. The military has to be limited in its use. When after 9/11, we had the global war on terror, and guess what? We protected the border at the same time. You can do both.
Okay, let's go to Governor DeSantis. So, as president,
Yeah, as long
would
as
you
everybody's
support
respectful, everybody's
sending
welcome
US
here,
Special
Ron.
Forces over the border into Mexico to take out fentanyl labs, to take out drug cartel operations? Would you support that kind of American military use?
Yes, and I will do it on day one. Here's the thing. The cartels are killing tens of thousands of our fellow citizens. You want to talk about a country in decline? You have the cartels controlling a lot of part of your southern border. We have to reestablish the rule of law, and we have to defend
Asia,
our
Arkansas,
people.
dude.
The President of the United States has got to use all available powers as Commander-in-Chief to protect our country and to protect the people. So when they're coming across, yes, we're going to use lethal force. Yes, we reserve the right to operate. How many more tens of thousands are we going to let to die? I am sick. I've met angel moms throughout this country. I met a lady in Texas named Tracy, and her son took one Percocet that was laced with fentanyl, immediately died. That is happening all across this country because of the poison that they are bringing in. So as president, would I use force? Would I treat them as foreign terrorist organizations? You're darn right I would.
You know, Vice President Pence, why would you be better at this issue than Governor DeSantis? Governor DeSantis on the campaign trail refers to your administration as not finishing the wall.
Right. Look, we secured the southern border of the United States of America and reduced illegal immigration and asylum abuse by 90%. When Joe Biden took over, he threw open the southern border of the United States, and the wave of humanity, the wave of fentanyl that's been eloquently described here is a wave of human tragedy across this country. But Martha, you began this evening talking about who is best prepared to be the next president of the United States. And I have to tell you with all humility, I was there when we negotiated through the government shutdown and got the funding available to build the wall. I was negotiating on Capitol Hill around the clock. I negotiated the Remain in Mexico policy on behalf of the President of the United States. And AC, you're so right. It's because we used economic pressure to bring the Mexicans to the table, and they allowed us to have people wait in Mexico while they applied for asylum and ended asylum abuse overnight. We got the Mexicans to deploy their National Guard to their southern border and to our southern border as never before. And I want to promise you, as President of the United States of America, I will engage Mexico the exact same way, and we will partner with the Mexican military, and we will hunt down and destroy the cartels that are claiming lives in the United States of America.
Okay, thank you. Another issue that is related to this is that almost 7 million migrants have crossed
I think
this
his
border,
lip might be
our
drooping.
southern border, during the Biden
I think
administration.
you're right, Baldy.
So, Governor Christie, what would you do about the 7 million who are here? How would you handle them? What would you do?
Look, Martha, the first thing we need to do is to stop any more from coming. That's the first thing we need to do. Then the next thing we need to do with the folks that are here is to, again, as we've talked about all night tonight, we have to have law and order in this country. We have to enforce the law. And what that means is to make sure that people who come here illegally are not rewarded for being here illegally. We have so many wonderful people from around the world who are waiting in line, following the law to try to come here and pursue the American dream. And those people are waiting and waiting and waiting because we haven't dealt with the problem of the folks who are here. We have to have them detained. We have to make sure that they are not rewarded for having broken the law. And one last thing on this fentanyl issue. With China, we can't take our eye off of that ball. Right. Yes, it's important that we secure the border. Very important, as I just said. But China is sending these chemicals to these drug cartels for them to create the fentanyl that is killing hundreds of thousands of our citizens. The Chinese are engaging in an act of war against us, killing our citizens. We better make that priority one in our conversations with China and to try to straighten that relationship out, because if we don't, we're going to lose more and more of our citizens.
I just want to clarify, would you send those people back?
Of course. You'd have to.
We have a lot of issues that Americans care about. Next up, we're going to talk about the crisis in education, as millions of American children are not proficient in reading or math. After this.
Okay, we're going to talk about homeschooling. The dumbing down of America. Is that what we're coming up on? Hello, everybody. Thank you again for clicking on here. We got about a 3-minute break while they're on commercial. And again, doing this over the phone, so I can't see all the comments. I see them as they pop up. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, obviously the site of tonight's debate. And what are we? We are, let's see, we're coming up on the 9th month, so we've got 4 months until our first, until the Iowa caucus and the New Hampshire primary, our first tests. As far as I know, I don't think anybody other than Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is running against Biden at the moment. If somebody else is, I'm not aware of it, and I apologize. But as far as I know, that's the only challenge Biden has at the moment is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And shoot, I could do a whole 2-hour episode just on why that's not a good plan for the Democrats, but that's their thing. We have 2 other candidates that were not on the stage and filed an unsuccessful lawsuit to get this debate stopped. And speaking of unsuccessful lawsuits, Mark Meadows and the other guy that was the Department of Justice attorney, they had both filed seeking that they would not have to go to Atlanta, Georgia, that they were too busy after having been given 2 weeks to turn themselves in. And the federal judge told them same thing that the Georgia judges said, you got to turn yourselves in, you've had plenty of time. So at some point, Mark Meadows and I forget the guy's name from the Department of Justice, they'll be turning themselves in as well. They're the 2 biggest names that haven't turned themselves in yet. Both of those are attorneys, as was Sidney Powell and Rudy Giuliani. Giuliani's been disbarred in, I think, the D.C. district. And they turned themselves in earlier today, if you weren't aware of that. Also earlier today, Prigozhin, the leader of Wagner, the Russian mercenary group, the secret army of Putin, secret up until not even a paper trail up until the Ukrainian invasion. And he was supposedly killed in a plane crash today. Russia's saying they've identified the body. His remains have been pulled from the wreckage and identified. If you weren't with us earlier, before the debate started, we had our half-hour pre-debate, and I showed the flight radar tracking of a second Prigozhin Wagner plane owned by the same company, a second plane that had taken off shortly after the first plane, and once the first plane was down, the second plane went back and landed at Moscow. So there's a chance he wasn't on the plane. Kind of catches you up with what's going on, and now we go back to the debate.
Deep declines for reading and math for 15-year-olds and 13-year-olds. Governor DeSantis, you would eliminate, you said, the Department of Education. But as president, would you still have a responsibility to fix this crisis as we see it?
Absolutely. The decline in education is one of the major reasons why our country is in decline. We need education in this country, not indoctrination in this country. And in Florida, we stood up for what was right. First, we had schools open during COVID, and a lot of the problems that we've seen are because these lockdown states lock their kids out of school for a year, year and a half. That was wrong. We stood up. I took a lot of fire for that. I was pilloried by the media, but I stood for our kids. And as president, I'll stand for you and your kids as well. But we have to make sure that what our schools are doing is focusing on solid academics. In Florida, we eliminated critical race theory from our K through 12 schools. We eliminated gender ideology from our K through 12 schools.
Don't teach inclusion.
We have elevated the importance of American civics and teaching our kids about the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. As president, I'm going to lead an effort to increase civic understanding and knowledge of our Constitution. We cannot be graduating students that don't have any foundation in what it means to be an American.
Mr. Ramaswamy, hold on, Senator Scott. You've said that the Department of Education, the FBI, the ATF, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, the IRS, the Department of Commerce, many of these should not exist.
That's correct.
So, to the education question, how would you deal with the crisis?
So look, we have a crisis of achievement. Let's shut down the head of the snake, the Department of Education. Take that $80 billion, put it in the hands of parents across this country. This is the civil rights issue of our time.
1776
Allow
comment,
any parent
Lori
to choose
Arnold.
where they send their kids to school. End the teachers' unions at the local level that allow public schools to compete. And then revive our national identity where every high school senior should have to pass the same civics test that frankly every immigrant, including my mother, had to pass in order to become a citizen of this country. And the fact of the matter is, look, there's part of education policy that also rests with the family. I didn't grow up in money, but you know the word privilege gets used a lot? Well, you know what? I did have the ultimate privilege of two parents in the house with a focus on educational achievement. And I want every kid to enjoy that. So part of the problem is we also have a federal government that pays single women more not to have a man in the house than to have a man in the house, contributing to an epidemic of fatherlessness. And I think that goes hand in glove with the education crisis as well, because we have to remember education starts with the family, and the nuclear family is the greatest form of governance.
Women don't necessarily need a man. Let's keep that in mind as well, pal.
Governor Haley has said that biological boys playing in girls' sports is the women's issue of our time. You said that even though you signed a ban on this in North Dakota, that there hadn't been one instance where it was actually needed. Are you saying that you think that too much is made of this issue?
No, I'm saying in North Dakota we made a priority of protecting women's sports, and we've done that in our state. But I would absolutely do that. But I do think when we start talking about education and we think that we're going to have a federal government, one size fits all, we're just completely losing track of the fact that education differs by states. Some school districts are doing a fantastic job, some less so. But the idea that every school district, state, and every teacher is somehow indoctrinating people is just false. You know, when I was building a company from scratch, you know, with small town kids, and we went, you know, grew up in a town of 300, but we built a global company in 132 countries with over 100,000 customers. We listened to those customers. We spent time with them. We talked to them. We did that. And as governor, well, education is one of the biggest part of the state budget. So as a governor, I shadow a student. I don't, the night before I find out the student finds out, I'm going to go to every class with them. I don't sit and lecture school districts how to do it. I go and see the experience. And there's a lot of things that have to change. But what needs to change in education is it's innovation. We're doing it the same way we did it 50 years ago with innovation, not regulation. I would get rid of the Department of Education. I would give block grants to schools, but I'd give them on merit based on who's doing the most innovative. I just got done holding the 7th annual Governor's Conference on Innovation Education. You should see what the people are doing when you cut loose the red tape, get the burden off their back. They care. Teachers in this country, the vast majority of them care about those kids. They're working in low-paying jobs, and they're fighting for those kids and their families.
He had a high ankle sprain. He was injured playing basketball yesterday with his staff.
As you know, as a parent, the one thing you want is for your child to have a better life than you did. And we can talk about all of these things, and there's a lot of crazy woke things happening in schools, but we've got to get these kids reading. If a child can't read by 3rd grade, they're 4 times less likely to graduate high school. So we need to make sure we bring in reading remediation all over this country. We need transparency in the classroom because parents should never have to wonder what's being said or taught to their children in the classroom. Parents need to be deciding which schools their kids go to because they know best. And let's put vocational classes back into the high schools. Let's teach our kids to build things again. When we do that and we allow that innovation, that's when it'll get back. And yes, I will always say I'm going to fight for girls all day long because strong girls become strong women become strong leaders, and biological boys don't belong in the locker rooms of any of our girls.
We're going to start the lightning round, and the first question is going to go to you, Vice President. So this is a lightning round of questions, 30-second answers, please. President Biden will be 82 years old on Inauguration Day. Nearly 70% of Americans say that he is too old to serve. Should presidents have to pass a mental and physical test in order to serve, Vice President Pence?
Well, it might be a good idea to have everybody in Washington, D.C. pass a mental and... But 30 seconds, no. The American people can make those judgments. But let me say, I'm running for president of the United States because we don't need a president who's too old. And we don't need a president who's too young. We need a president who's been there. We need a president who knows how Congress works, how the White House works, how states work. And on this education issue, Martha, I was fighting against No Child Left Behind when Republicans were doubling the Department of Education. I'll also shut down the Federal Department of Education. And when I was governor, we doubled the size of the largest school choice program in America, and we'll give school choice to every family in America when I'm in the White House.
This is a lightning round, Mr. Ramaswamy. I think you were mentioned there. You're 38. You're the youngest on the stage. You've said, and you just said, you want a civics test or public service for those under 25 to be able to vote. So the question is, do you want a mental acuity test for presidents over 75?
I believe in the people of this country to tell the difference between somebody who's an automaton and somebody who's actually a thinking agent in the White House, which we don't have in there today. And I will tell you, I want to address Vice President Pence's comment. I think we do need somebody of a different generation to lead this nation forward. Look at the way I've run this campaign. Going to the south side of Chicago, to Kensington, in the middle of Philadelphia, where traditional Republican candidates don't go. We have an opportunity to build a multi-ethnic, working-class majority to deliver a landslide, and I think I'm the only candidate in this race, young or old, black or white, to bring all of those voters along to deliver a Reagan 1980 revolution. We're going to do it in 2024.
Same question to you,
In a presidential election until 2020.
I will answer
Right.
that. I will answer that. 30 second quick answer.
He's only voted in one presidential election in his life. He didn't care about politics until he ran.
This is a lightning round, not rolling thunder. Governor Hutchinson, you have 30 seconds on the same question.
On education, first of all, look at Arkansas. We have to compete with China. I built computer science education. We led the nation in computer science education, going from 1,100 students to 23,000 students taking it. This is how you compete with China. As President of the United States, I will make sure we go from 51% of our schools offering computer science to every school in rural areas and urban areas offering computer science for the benefit of our kids, and we can compete with China in terms of technology.
Thank you, sir. This is going to go to this is coming to you. We're trying to do a quick round of different topics here. So, Senator Scott, faith is on decline in this country. You talked about it a little bit before tonight. So, is there a role for a president of the United States in changing that? What would you do to change that?
Well, our nation was founded upon the Judeo-Christian values that has made this the greatest nation on God's green earth. I'm a big believer in Ephesians 3:20 that God is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or imagine. Our responsibility should be the model of behavior we want others to follow. On education, the only way we change education in this nation is to break the backs of the teachers' unions. They are standing in the doorhouse of our kids, locking them into failing schools and locking them out of the greatest future they could have.
As President, Governor DeSantis, would you support some mandatory military service for all Americans?
I think it should be voluntary. I'm somebody that volunteered to serve, inspired by September 11th, and I deployed to Iraq alongside U.S. Navy SEALs in places like Fallujah, Ramadi, and it's something that I think has taught me, when you go in that type of environment, anything you have, your personal agenda, you check it at the door. You go there, and it's about focusing on the mission.
Hello to everybody.
Above all
Thank you
else.
for clicking
and guys
on.
come together, and they get it done. And that's how I would view being the President of the United States. It's not about me. It's not about all these other side issues. My sole focus will be on your future and reversing this country's decline.
Okay, now for something a little out of this world, and this is for you, Governor Christie. Do you believe that the recent spike in UFO encounters?
Oh, good. Good.
UFO question?
Yay.
There you go. But, okay, we've been hearing a lot of testimony in Congress, and people are taking this a lot more seriously, and we're hearing that, there are things going on that people aren't aware of. So, if you were president, Governor Christie,
Christie
would
gets the
you
UFO
level
question.
with the American people about what the government knows about these possible
Look,
encounters?
Martha, and especially coming from a woman from New Jersey, I think it's horrible that just because I'm from New Jersey, you asked me about unidentified flying objects and Martians. We're different, but we're not that different. Look, of course, the job of the President of the United States is to level with the American people about everything. The job of the President of the United States is to stand for truth. The job of the President of the United States is to be a role model for our children and our grandchildren. And so whether it was UFOs or this problem of education, and Tim's right, by the way, and I started this in 2010 by going right after the teachers' unions in New Jersey and drove them down to an all-time low popularity rating because they were putting themselves before our kids. That is the biggest threat to our country, not UFOs.
Okay. Well, coming up, we've got closing arguments, plus right after the debate, Hannity is live from the spin room right here in the Fiserv Forum with reaction from all the candidates as soon as they step off the stage. We'll be back after this.
New Jersey was where the fake alien invasion that was broadcast on the radio, War of the Worlds, I forget the guy's name. I can see his face. Big guy with a big beard. He wrote this, and he did a radio play from a radio station, and throughout the broadcast, he kept telling them that War of the Worlds, Orson Welles. Thank you, Christine. Orson Welles. He kept doing he kept saying this is just, this is a radio play. This is not real. And the people of New Jersey thought they were getting attacked by aliens. So I'm not sure if that is the reference. I think it probably is. Why Christie was making fun of having a UFO question. I don't know. That's the first thing that popped into my head. I was hoping they would take it seriously, but the aliens will destroy or colonize us. Lori Arnold always with the positive vibes. But probably right. We got one more segment. Their closing statements, and then they will be coming off the stage, and we'll get their individual comments. So we'll hang out until it's over, or make us their pets. Lori Cunning says. We discussed this one night on one of the talk shows. What would you rather be? Would you rather be a zoo animal? Would you rather be in a zoo that the aliens came and looked at you while you cohabitated and coalesced and coincided. Shout out to Damnation Drive-In. Or would you rather be a pet? Or would you rather be a militant rebel? Zoo, circus, or pet was what we did, yeah. But I'd like to add, Planet of the Apes kind of thing, militant. The War of the Worlds reference sailed right over my head, but maybe people in the audience older than 63 knew exactly what he was talking about. I studied media. I was a radio, television, motion picture minor. And plus I was in radio. So yeah, I knew about War of the Worlds. I don't know if everybody does, because it was back in, like, I think 1938, I think it was pre-World War II. So that might not have been 1938. Okay. I didn't think, so that might not have been the reference, but that was the first thing that popped into my mind when it came to New Jersey and UFOs. When he did that radio, like he told people at the beginning, yes, he did. He told people at the beginning and throughout the thing, throughout the broadcast, but it was pretty crazy. And of course, there was the original movie based on the radio play, and then I think wasn't Tom Cruise in the remake of War of the Worlds? Yes, okay, Tom Cruise in the remake of War of the Worlds. I don't know. If I were a Democratic operative, if I were a paid Democratic consultant, I would be concerned about Nikki Haley. I think thus far, in my opinion, Nikki Haley is going to get the biggest bump from this. DeSantis probably will hold steady. Pence might get a little bit of bump because he didn't come off as a pansy, which he did the whole time he was Trump's vice president. He just sat and looked at Trump adoringly. What's happening here? Am I losing my... They're not coming back on? I hope they come back on. Well, they're not coming back on. Let me pop over and say hello to everybody and give you a quick look down at Doofus Dog over there guarding the property. Let me refresh this. No candidate on stage has cited their leadership achievements. Don't think Republicans would nominate a woman. Too many Christians. Yeah, there's a lot of the patriarchy ingrained in the Christian communities. Trying to do two things at once. Trying to reboot here to see if it'll come back on. Here we go. All right, we're back.
You can almost see beyond that horizon. You can see that this great country, our future is unlimited. But we've got to focus on innovation, not regulation. We've got to cut the red tape. We've got to drive ourselves forward. The way we win the...
Come on now. Come on.
Country, our future is unlimited. But we've got to focus on innovation, not regulation. We've got to cut the red tape. We've got to drive ourselves forward. The way we win the Cold War with China is by growing our economy and through innovation. And as president, I will bring out the best of America. I will improve every American life.
Well, we hope you're back on your horse soon, Governor.
Governor Hutchinson? Our nation is in trouble. And it's in trouble because of failed leadership. And the solution is not 4 more years of Joseph Biden. The solution is not 4 more years of Donald Trump. Solution is new leadership.
Oakley. I'm not sure why this is doing it. What's going on here? Come on, man.
Solution is new leadership that can bring bold ideas to America and to bring out the best of America. A president's number one responsibility is to bring out the best of our people. That's what Ronald Reagan did. And he did it with optimism and hope for our country, with consistent conservatism.
Yeah, Doofus Dog doesn't like
That's exactly
Asa.
what I bring. As president, I'll bring out the best of America in terms of individual
like DeSantis either.
responsibility, building our economy, in terms of securing our border, enforcing the rule of law. I'll bring out the best of America in terms of our national character, our faith, and our hope for the future. Join in this fight.
Afro Man,
ASA2024.com.
Snoop, and
Thank
Willie.
you, Senator Scott.
Thank you. I was a disillusioned young man growing up in a single-parent household, mired in poverty. I wondered if the American dream was real for a kid like me. I can stand before you today and say the dream is alive, it is well, and it is healthy. I have the good fortune of a mom who works 16-hour days, making sure we have food on our tables. She taught me that if you're able-bodied in America, you work. If you take out a loan, you pay it back. If you commit a violent crime, you go to jail. And if God made you a man, you play sports against me. I'm Tim Scott. I'm asking you for your vote, and if you're in Iowa, I'm asking you to caucus for me. You can go to votetimscott.com for more information or to make a contribution.
Governor Christie.
I approve this message.
Thank you, Brett. Thank you, Martha. Look, everybody on this stage wants to be the next president of the United States. And the only way that's going to happen is if we beat Joe Biden. I'm the only one on this stage who's ever beaten the Democratic incumbent in an election. I did it in a deep blue state, being outspent 3-1. Beating a Democratic incumbent is not easy. The last Democratic incumbent president who was defeated was Jimmy Carter. And he was defeated by a conservative governor from a blue state who knew how to get results, who stood for the truth, who cared about accountability, and stood strong and hard against waste. Those are the very things that I did in my 8 years as governor of New Jersey, and it's exactly what I'll do as president of the United States. Believe me, the Democrats want some other nominee who's never beaten the Democratic incumbent. I'm the one who can win this race, and if you give me the chance, I will restore our country by winning it.
Thank you. Governor Haley.
Several weeks ago, I dropped my husband, Michael, a combat veteran from Afghanistan, off at 4 a.m. for another year-long deployment. I watched him and 230 soldiers pick up their 2 duffel bags of belongings to go to a country they had never been, all in the name of protecting America. If they are willing to protect us from there, we should be willing to fight for America here. I will beat Joe Biden, and he knows that. I will strengthen our economy, and we'll bring this inflation down. We will put transparency in the classroom.
Great
We will
question,
secure our
Zippy.
borders. We will have the backs of our law enforcement, and we will make sure we have a strong national security. And once again, we will make sure we have an America that is strong and proud. We have a country to save. Join us. Go to NikkiHaley.com, and let's get it done.
Vice President Pence.
Thank you, Brad and Martha, for this evening. It's an honor to be here. Joe Biden has weakened America at home and abroad. The disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, their war on energy, runaway spending that launched the worst inflation in 40 years, a crisis at our southern border, an assault on our values and liberties.
Oh my gosh, come on. Come on, come on, come on. What's going on here? All right. Let's refresh again. I'm guessing too many people are watching. Unknown error occurred. Hang with us here for just a couple of minutes. If I don't get it back up, Sure didn't want to lose it when Pence was talking. It shows Hannity. Looks like a loading issue. No, come on. Yes, I've been having a loading issue. I'm aware of it. Problem persists. Try force closing your Sling app, then relaunching to see if you can resolve the issue. Come on. No, we're not doing that. Hey, actually, Cunning, we're not doing that. No way in the world would I get in the middle of all that right now. I would get killed. And that would be literally. People from both sides would kill me because I've got common sense stuff that I would be putting out there. But thank you. And by the way, that all started one night we were supposed to do. I'll do a forced boot here and talk for a second and get it back up. One night we were supposed to do a panel, and I got a call. Or I got a text message about 10 minutes before we were going to do the panel that the people that were going to do the panel weren't going to be able to be on the panel. And I thought, what am I going to do? You know, I don't have anything planned. I don't have a show prepped. And, you know, the whole show was going to be about the... I know it wouldn't be the Doofus channel without some kind of problems. You're exactly right. What am I going to do? So I decided, okay, I'm going to announce I'm running for president, and I'll put a platform together, and I'll put a party together, and I'll put it out there, and you know, everybody will laugh, and we'll have some fun. People liked what I said, and some people thought, you know, hey, this is, you know, we should do this. It's the idea of actually legitimately running for president is something that I don't know if we could do it. I don't know if it could be done just on the internet. And I'm kind of
cognitive mess that is Joe Biden, and tonight.
Okay, Hannity's on. All right, we'll come back. Would Jeff be my VP? No, River. I can 1,000% tell you that Jeff would not be my VP. I might if I were to do something, I would talk to Dr. Cornel West. To see about teaming up with him. He's going to be the Green Party nominee. That will be as close as you can get to getting on ballots. That's the whole key. All right. It doesn't matter if you got great ideas. It doesn't matter if you don't have any money, because if you got great ideas, people will fund you if you work hard enough for it, and you got to work hard. You got to be out there shaking hands and all kinds of stuff. But the key is you got to get on the ballots. You got to be on a ballot in order to win. You're not going to win by people writing your name in. And we're back live. Here we go. All right, we're back up. Oh, there we go.
Getting into the specifics, who won, who lost, we'll let everybody at home make
right.
those decisions.
But
what really stood out to me is what a contrast.
The Green Party candidate doesn't have any chance of winning. You would have to do a. I mean, it'd have to be a groundswell of youth. Is the only way you're going to get a third party candidate. You got to have 100% of the youth, and that's all but impossible. No, I did not get a haircut. My hair's I've got my hair up in a ponytail here. Wait a minute. There we go. I did not get a haircut. I had it up in a ponytail because it's like 108 degrees with the heat index here today. And let's see what they're saying here. So I've had it up in a ponytail.
Attributes in Joe Biden, meaning cares about people like me, has a plan for the country, has the mental acuity and physical capacity.
Yeah, scrunchy.
He showed up 2 weeks later after saying, any comment? No comment. I don't want to be a distraction on the ground. Meanwhile, there's nothing on the ground to distract from.
By the way, could the Democrats, Ryan and Sean, could they even find 8 people to be on the stage tonight? They don't have much of a bench at all. I mean, this is all the undercard right now. Trump's beating every single one of them, every single poll in every single state and nationwide. And they're running for number 2. Look, I think Nikki is going to get a second look from some people based on some stuff she said tonight on abortion. I'm very pro-life, but I like what she said, that you don't demonize or punish women.
Oh,
That's
my.
important. We have to save babies and serve women. The people who love debate are not the people that are voting for Trump. And the people
I'm
who are
agreeing with
Republican
Kellyanne
tonight
Conway. I don't know. This is weird.
I think he's inexperienced. Mike Pence was aggressive. Chris Christie did his I'm a seasoned debater thing. I think DeSantis held his own. He didn't have enough time really to differentiate himself, but he delivered in a different way than he usually does.
Listen, I think he had a very strong open. The interesting thing, when I do my audience shows, I'll poll them every night, and those that like President Trump, they also
This
like
might be the
DeSantis.
first time I've ever
I think
watched
that every one
Hannity.
of these folks on stage tonight, they're gonna win or lose this debate's gonna be in this room right behind us, and every one of them had a moment.
spin
Every one of
room.
them can clip something that they've said, a one-liner, their
Reese
position on
Priebus,
something
yeah,
that they're gonna
yeah.
use to attract voters, attract money.
Oh, it's not
And
Kelly?
look, as you were saying before, Joe Biden's not just doing a horrible job as president, but the proof is in the pudding. He's 20 points worse today in his approval rating than he was in 2020. So when people debate, well, who can beat Joe Biden? Can Trump beat Joe Biden? Can DeSantis beat Joe Biden? Joe Biden is 20 points worse, and this election comes down to 100,000 votes in 5 states. That's it. We are talking razor-thin margin.
And your state of Wisconsin will be critical.
And we're here.
It is
If there's
her,
any
okay.
Republican that's going to have a chance at winning the presidency, they always have to run the table. Wisconsin's a big part of that equation.
In Wisconsin was won by less than 0.7% of the vote in 2016 and 2020. It comes down to about 20,000 votes.
Crazy.
And you know, I think that this debate tonight was a great debate. Every one of these folks are better than Joe Biden. Unfortunately, I also think, and it's a little harsh to say, and I didn't want it this way. I wanted Donald Trump to be here, but I think he probably made the right decision after seeing tonight, because tonight...
Why do you say that?
Because I think it looked a little bit as an undercard debate tonight, and I think that not having the prize fighter, I think not having Donald Trump on that stage took down the temperature a little bit, made it a little less, I think, attractive, and I think that he probably made the right decision. By
On the other candidates, I mean, let's be honest. This guy is sucking out 95% of the oxygen in the entire campaign. Right. They should have been happy that this was a moment for them to get their opinions across and introduce themselves, like in the case of
I agree with that.
Who am I? Why am I here?
But who's going to take a percentage of the vote from Donald Trump after tonight? And maybe they can do it. Maybe they can spin it out their way. But the question is...
She's growling. She's looking out the window and growling.
55%. What
It is
percentage
Doofus dog.
of that 55% are one of these other people going to take from him?
That's really the question here, Sean. It's that he's got these 4 different indictments. He wasn't here at the debate. If the polls don't move appreciably after this, it's hard to know what any of them can do to effectuate it. Now, I was like you. I wanted President Trump to come to the debate. I believe in direct democracy.
Yeah.
This is his sweet spot, his natural habitat. We want to hear from him.
I'm going
The point of this debate was to
the
introduce
first
yourself
commercial
to voters who
break.
don't know you. He's the most popular political person on the planet, best known. And number 2, he's got a whole record of accomplishments. Tonight, Mike Pence tried to say these are the Trump-Pence accomplishments. So he didn't need to be here for that. I think it was smart in the end for him not to come, because they proved his point that without him, it's not as exciting, it's not as animated. And you know what, gentlemen, they all talked a good game against him, and they hardly laid a glove on him tonight. They're going to pretend they wanted to ignore him, but they did that because they know that in attacking Trump, you're alienating his voters.
Right.
You can't do that.
And that's a big part of the base. We're at a inflection point, I think, though, for the country. How does America reconcile And I think this is really key. How do you reconcile securing the borders or Joe's policies of in 3 years he'll have let in maybe 8 million illegal immigrants? How do you reconcile climate alarmism with the belief that we should be energy independent and energy dominant? How do you reconcile law and order versus defund, dismantle the police? How do you reconcile, school choice versus, catering?
Okay, I thought we were going to see. I thought we were going to see the candidates and hear from the candidates as they left the stage, but evidently we're just going to sit in the spin room and we'll have them come up. And I'm not going to sit here for 3 hours on Fox. Sorry. Any of these other candidates? Fox bobbleheads for turning the focus back to Orange Julius. I'm going to play something here. I'm going to play the opening. For those that didn't see it, I've put a new opening together for the show, and not a lot of people have seen it. Why can't I play it? There we go. This is the new opening of the show. I've got a closing too, by the way. Oh, wait a minute. I got to get rid of. Well, I also played one of my campaign speeches earlier. All right. Here we go. I'm going to restart this so it doesn't, here we go. Let me know what you think about this. New start for the program. So there we go. That's the new opening for the show. My first attempt at trying to put something together. I'll get better, and I'm going to get more stuff in it. Here's how we're going to close the show out from now on. I'm not closing it right now, but here's how. And I'm not going to do it. But when I'm back in the studio next time, this is how we'll close the show out. So there we go. That's how I'm going to be opening and closing the shows from now on. Hopefully, there we go. Get Fox back up here for a few minutes and see what they're doing.
Vivek coming out and just taking on everyone on that stage. That's pretty good.
Thank you, Cunning. It's my first try. I'll get better. And plus, I got to figure out how to get some clips. I want to get the clip of me in heaven with Jesus from Damnation Drive-In. I want to get Lori Arnold and I dancing from one of her videos. There's some other things I want to get to put some other videos together. Okay, here we go. Let's see what DeSantis has to say.
You got stronger throughout the night, but I thought your open was particularly strong, and it's a message that most Americans believe. This is a nation in decline. Then you went into American first policies. Then you talked about Ukraine. You know, we're not securing our borders. Right. Why are we spending all of that money when Europe won't even step up?
Yeah, look, I think that the nation's in decline, but this decline's a choice. And we're going to make this choice over the next 18 months. We can reverse the decline. We can restore America. I think it's similar to the late 1970s when Jimmy Carter was president. A lot of people said it was an age of limits. America wasn't going to be able to be great again. And Ronald Reagan had a different idea. So that's just, I think, what the average American is seeing in their own daily lives.
Ronald Reagan,
and so
zombie
in some
Reagan.
respects, we can point out all the bad things, and there's a lot of bad things. But I am optimistic that it can be done. You know why? Because we did it in Florida. Everything I laid out in Florida, we accomplished, and the state has boomed. We can do the same thing for the U.S.
Okay, so that was a big part of your theme tonight. This is Florida.
Yes.
2018, you had a pretty close race. I was down in Florida covering that race, as you know. And then you come back, and 4 years later, you win by a record 1.5 million votes. That would be, I would think, validation for your governing skills for the state.
Absolutely, Tupelo.
You kept talking about, I will not let you down. Explain.
Hi, butterflies.
I think that there's a lot of people that get elected, they overpromise, underdeliver. When times get really tough,
Yeah, if you can't take constructive criticism, then
I did in Florida, particularly during
COVID, how are you going to grow?
Kids can be in school protecting everyone's businesses and
By the way, your kids were back in school in August of 2020.
Right. And I got pilloried for that. But when I stand my ground for you, you can take that to the bank. I am not going to back down.
I've never heard that before. Wear no shade of green you couldn't find in a forest.
We've beaten all those people. And I think that when in Florida, part of the reason I did so well is because people, they knew where I stood, and they knew, look, if the governor says he's going to do something, he's going to do it. He doesn't just make idle promises. When he says it, he'll do it. So I think that's the same thing as president. I'm campaigning on a bold agenda, but I am not saying anything that I don't intend to follow through with. And so when I talk about using the military to take on the drug cartels because they're killing tens of thousands of our citizens, we have every right to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm not just going to get in the office and say, forget about it. So people should know that. Now's the time to get it done. I think our country, if we get another 4 years of this, I don't know if we could bring it back.
I don't know if we recover. I really don't. So I'd be negligent if I didn't ask you. I asked this question of Donald Trump, and it was about, I said, you and Governor DeSantis. I said, because you guys were friends. He did support you.
I supported him. I mean, I supported him in 2016, obviously, and then in 2020, they really relied on me, to do a lot in Florida. I raised more money than him.
Oh, I hadn't even thought about that, Tupelo.
I mean, I raised, $10-15 million, and we worked really hard to make sure the Florida election.
Yeah, I was just going for the big shoe dance. I didn't even think about the
By the way, there were 2 points when it wasn't the best.
Yes.
Right?
Paul Rubin stuff.
So that's really important.
Yeah.
And so, the
Thank
thing
you.
is, I mean, I know he attacks me a lot now, but that's just, when I started to get steam for re-election, he came out and started dinging me. That's fine. I don't think he should do that, but it is what it is. But I do.
When I did ask him what happened, he did say, I supported him. He felt it was disloyal. Did you ever respond to that?
No, here's the thing, Sean. I'm loyal to my family, the Constitution, and the Lord our God. I work with other politicians to advance a common agenda, but nobody's entitled to be endorsed or supported. You've got to earn that. And I would, mind you, he started attacking me before I even got in.
He didn't talk like that on the stage
So that's fine.
when everybody was watching. Just saying.
We're going to do what we need to do.
Let's ask about the controversial issue of abortion, and you signed a 6-week bill, the heartbeat bill. Now, look, I don't think anybody really anticipated Roe v. Wade would be overturned, right? It would have been a matter of law.
Most Republican justices have let us down over the years.
Right.
And so even when Dobbs was pending, a lot of people said, Kavanaugh, are they going to do it? And so they did do it, though, and they deserve credit.
But it's an issue that went back to the states. Do you support this more as a state issue, or do you think it should be federal legislation?
So what I've said is, one, our heartbeat bill I am proud of. It was the right thing to do. The reality in our country right now is advancing protections for life is bottom up. That's just the reality based on kind of the demographics and the public opinion and whatnot. And so you're not going to have Wisconsin do what Texas has done, just like Iowa is going to be different than New Hampshire. That's just where we find ourselves. And so, you know, I'm going to be...
Should it stay a state issue, or should federally there be a standard?
Well, look, if there is something to prevent, like, late-term abortions, that's been done before. I mean, obviously, you know, as a pro-life president, I'm going to support that.
You pointed that out, too, and I think this is key. There is
not getting POTUS vibes at all. He doesn't have a presidential demeanor. He doesn't have a presidential voice. I don't think he has a presidential intellect, but I think he's self-serving, and
if you ask him, when does the child
I mean,
get protection?
you got to have an ego to run for office.
No, they don't.
When we point this out, the corporate media, the liberal media,
But
they run interference.
you
with
also have to be
Democrats.
able
So
to
they
check
attack us
things.
for being pro-life, and then they go to the Democrats and act like the Democrats aren't taking very, very extreme.
And I think this
positions.
guy's just about talking points and a cringy smile. He's got a really cringy smile. Plus, he wipes boogers on people. I don't know if you saw that in the Twitter X scroll the one night, but literally, he like wiped his nose and wiped it on this dude's hat, and the woman behind him saw him doing it, and just went cringe on DeSantis. Don't know if he has a lot of. He's either got no self-awareness or too much self-awareness.
Tonight was a relative newcomer to the Republican Party, self-described outsider. Take a look.
So first, let me just address a question that is on everybody's mind at home tonight.
Oh,
Who the heck is this skinny guy with a funny last name, and what the heck is he doing in the middle of this?
This guy's a pitch man. He needs to be selling ShamWow.
You're right about that. I'm an entrepreneur. My parents came to this country with no money 40 years ago. I have gone on to
For real, burger wiper.
while marrying my wife Apoorva, raising our two
It was
sons,
at the Iowa Fair.
following our faith in God. That is the American dream. And I am genuinely worried that American dream will not exist for our two sons and their generation unless we do something about it. And I do think Brett is going to take an outsider, because for a long time we have professional politicians in the Republican Party who have been running from something. Now is our moment to start running to something, to our vision of what it means to be an American.
Yeah, really. Don't wipe your boogers on me, dude.
The keys to the people who broke it again. You hand it over to a new generation to actually fix the problem. That's why I'm in this race, and we're just getting warmed up.
All right, Vivek Ramaswamy. Vivek.
Yeah, I think DeSantis is going to get his ass handed to him by the mouse.
Okay, you should have told me.
I appreciate best efforts. I appreciate best efforts.
All right, so
Is it let me see if I can find it.
You brought a lot of energy and a smile, and you seem to be having fun up there. I'm the only one on stage not bought and paid for. Ouch. I thought they were coming after you pretty good. Christie came back at you and said, "Oh, okay. Compared you to Barack Obama, a guy with a long last name and liberal." Obviously.
Obama didn't have a long last name, but
Christie to give me a hug, because he did that to Barack Obama, and that actually, unfortunately, was the good luck charm for Barack Obama. But the reality is, everybody on that stage had been on a debate stage before. This is my first time in a political debate, and I am thrilled with how it came out. We over-exceeded my expectation. Frankly, even Trump, as an outsider last time around, I think his second debate was a lot better than his first.
Right.
Frankly, this went way better than I expected.
I think obviously one of the reasons is you're very media savvy. You have a group.
okay, we know what this guy looks like, so we'll listen to him while
Politicians don't smile enough. They need to smile more.
I'm not a politician.
I'll see if I can find.
Okay, I hate to tell you, you're now officially a politician.
Wait a minute. I think it was going to be on Twitter, wasn't it?
Tonight, okay, officially, I'm going to have to cringe, but wear that label. But I do think Sean's going
I'll
to take
see if I can find the Trump, Carlson, Tucker Carlson interview here.
Is the war on the administrative state and the shadow government here at home. That is not going to happen from somebody who comes from the super PAC class. It's not going to come from somebody who comes from the historical Republican Party. It is going to take an outsider. And the other thing, Sean, that I think is really important in this election is that we're skating on thin ice. This has to be a moral mandate. This cannot be another 50.1 election. And I'm in this race to build a multi-ethnic, working class majority like Reagan did.
Too fast.
This has to be a landslide. Young, old, black, white, Hispanic, man, woman, doesn't matter. I'm running this campaign that way. We're going to the south side of Chicago, to Kensington, in the inner city of Philadelphia, where Republican candidates are taught not to go in a primary. But the reality is that's why I don't mention Republicans and Democrats on the stage.
ShamWow, say bye, buddy. We're going to go over.
Are you at the Fox News debate tonight in Milwaukee?
Well, you know.
Let's go back to the very beginning here. And let's see what he says.
It's debate night, but we're not in Milwaukee. Mr. President, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Why are you at the Fox News debate tonight in Milwaukee?
Well, you know, a lot of people have been asking me that, and many people said you shouldn't do them, but you see the polls have come out, and I'm leading by 50 and 60 points. And, you know, some of them are at 1 and 0 and 2. And I'm saying, do I sit there for an hour or 2 hours, whatever it's going to be, and
Joe Biden, and
get harassed by people that shouldn't even be running for president? Should I be doing that?
Wait a minute. What? ShamWow won't go away.
The more we do that, the more likely we are to win.
There were a few shots. It's not a time for on-the-job training.
Let's just get rid of him. There we go. Sorry about that, everybody. Back to Trump.
And a network that isn't particularly friendly to me, frankly. You know, they were backing Ron DeSanctimonious like crazy, and now they've given up on him. I mean, it's a lost cause. It's reminded me very much of 2016.
I don't know. I'm running it through my. I'm running it through my phone.
Became very friendly after I won, or just about when I was winning. But I just felt it would be more appropriate not to do the debate. I don't think it's right to do it. If you're leading by 50, 60, I have one problem leading by 70 points. And I'm saying, why am I doing it? And I'm going to have 8 people, 10 people, whoever made the debate. I don't know how many it is, but I'm going to have all these people screaming at me, shouting questions at me, all of which I love answering, I love doing, but it doesn't make sense to do them. So I've taken a pass, as you probably noticed.
Well, I did. I'm grateful that you did. It's interesting, though, because you spent a lot of your career in television.
Yeah.
You were a top show in television on NBC. But you don't feel the need now running for president to do television, obviously. Do you think television is declining?
Well, according to a poll that I guess we just saw, it just came out where it's down like 30, 35%, but I think they were referring to cable. I think cable's down because it's lost credibility. MSNBC, or as they say, MSDNC, is so bad. It's so wrong what they write and what they do and what they say. It's fake news, as I said. I think I came up with that term. I hope I did, because it's a good one. It's not tough enough anymore. It's corrupt news. You know, really what you do is called corrupt news, but somehow that doesn't play as nicely. But it is corrupt news. So you have MSNBC and you have CNN, who's absolutely doing no ratings at all. I mean, they're dead. But they're doing them because they don't have credibility. They really don't have credibility. Fox is way down, as you know. And the good old days are long ago. I will say this, it could come back, but they just don't have a lot of credibility, Tucker. You know that perhaps better than anybody. I think it was a terrible move getting rid of you. You were number one on television, and all of a sudden we're doing this interview, but we'll get bigger ratings using this crazy forum that you're using than
you won't.
Probably the debate.
No,
competition.
You won't. Really, you won't.
When you say there are people on stage who shouldn't be running for president, who do you mean?
Well, I don't want to really use names, but it doesn't matter too much. A guy like, I call him Ada Hutchinson. It's Asa, but I call him Ada.
Why do you call him Ada?
I could tell you, but I don't want to get myself in a little trouble. but he's weak and pathetic, and he was, I never understood the guy, never knew him. He was the governor of Arkansas. Not a very popular guy. I don't know how that state is such a great state. The people are so incredible in that state, and they love me and I love them. How does this guy get elected governor of Arkansas? But he's
a steaming pile of statesmanship. Look how he's sitting. Look at his body language. His shoulders are hunched. He's sitting on the edge of the chair. He's not at all comfortable.
He went solely on the basis, oh, let's get
when you look at Tucker's body lange,
maniac. He's like a lunatic. And that's all he talks about. His poll numbers are very, very low. He's about 2%.
What's he like? You know him well.
No, I've been friendly with him over the years, but I couldn't give him a job because I just never trusted him very much. I was just never one of his people that really trusted him. I never gave him the job, and that's one of the reasons he feels so hurt and so betrayed. And I understand that. I really do. I understand it, but I never gave him. You know, he wanted to be different things. He was looking at different elements of the administration, and we decided. I decided I didn't want to do it, and now I'm glad I did because you see. But you know, we had some great people. I had great people. We'll have even better people if we do this because now I know Washington. Before I didn't know Washington, but guys like Bill Barr were terrible. I mean, they were, I would say, Bushies. I say that with respect to the Bush family, but they were Bushies, and just it doesn't work out for us.
It was clear.
Pence fly on his hair.
That was. I read Barr's
from the vice presidential debates. That was hilarious.
His autobiography.
What a meme!
And in it, he lies about Jeffrey Epstein's death. Clearly lies. Do you think Epstein killed himself sincerely?
I don't know. I will say that he was a fixture in Palm Beach.
Yeah.
I don't know what Barr said about it either. I have no idea what he said. What did he say? He killed himself, probably?
He said he killed himself and that they were going to do this investigation. They never did the investigation. It's never been public. Well, and they hid it, and why are they doing that? And clearly Barr knew. But why would Bill Barr be covering up the death of Jeffrey Epstein?
Bill Barr didn't do an investigation on the election fraud either, okay? He said he did, and he pretended he did, but he didn't. McSwain, the U.S. attorney in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, said Barr just wouldn't let him do it. It was crazy. Barr became so petrified, so frightened of being impeached. They were going to impeach him. I don't know if you remember it.
Yeah.
It's not a big moment in history. But they said, we're going to impeach. They play a much rougher game, the left, the lunatics. And they were going to impeach Bill Barr, and he was petrified. Now, how do you not get impeached? Don't do any of this stuff. But he didn't do the job there. I don't know what he did with Epstein, but possibly he did.
Do you think it's possible that Epstein was killed?
Oh, sure, it's possible. I mean, I don't really believe. I think he probably.
How many times were you on Epstein Island, Don?
Life with beautiful homes and beautiful everything, and he all of a sudden he's incarcerated and not doing very well. I would say that he did, but there are those people. There are many people. I think you're one of them, right? But a lot of people think that he.
Lori Arnold.
He knew a lot on a lot of people.
He was killed.
You think so?
I think the closer you look, I'm not a conspiracy person at all. I believe everything I hear. But yeah, the closer you look into it, I mean, the Attorney General of the United States, your Attorney General, clearly lied about the Epstein death.
Yeah, he was certainly it wasn't well done. They had no cameras. They had no anything. Everybody was sleeping, and a case could be made. Look, I'm not going to get involved in it, but I can tell you a case could be made right away. But it certainly wasn't the most well-run place.
So the reason I'm asking you is I'm looking at the trajectory since 2015 when you got into politics, for real, and then won. It started with protests against you, massive protests, organized protests by the left, and then it moved to impeachment twice, and now indictment. I mean, the next stage is violence. Are you worried that they're going to try and kill you? Why wouldn't they try and kill you, honestly?
Donald Trump's hair harsh as my mellow.
Savage animals. They are people that are sick, really sick. You have great people in the Democrat Party. You have great people that are Democrats. Most of the people in the country are fantastic, and I'm representing everybody. I'm not just Republicans or conservatives. I represent everybody. I'm the president of everybody.
You're not the president of anybody.
I've seen the lengths that they go to when they make up the Russia. When that's exposed and they go down, and Barr should have gone after them, and other people should have gone after, and they did very late, because the Durham report came out. It was fairly good. It could have been a lot tougher, I guess, but it was fairly good. But it explained how corrupt it was.
Marcia.
I'll tell you who did a great job was the Inspector General Horowitz. He did a phenomenal report. You didn't have to go to do it. He did it on Comey and on, I guess, McCabe and some others, and it was a vicious, it was basically a true report, how bad they are. But these people are sick people. These are people that I think they hate our country. You want to know the truth. When you see open borders, when you see these policies that they have, and so many other things, it's so sad to see. You know, we have a country that's very fragile right now. I've never seen, I will say, look, I ran in 16, which was 15, but I ran in 16, election in 16, and there was tremendous spirit. In 20, there was even more spirit. We got millions and millions more votes. You know, it wasn't even a contest. People said, well, what do you think of 20? I said, we did much better. We did. You got to base it on the number of votes. We got many more votes in 20 than we did in 16. But the election was rigged. It was a rigged election. And with COVID, they used COVID to cheat in a lot of different things, and we have so much on it. It's like so easy. But we had judges that didn't want to look. We had people didn't want to get involved. They could he's a conspiracy theorist if you say anything about the election. But I have never seen spirit like there is right now. Even coming down here, just the people on the road that are just absolutely going crazy. And the reason is, I think they like me, and I know they love my policies. I hope they like me too. You know, a lot of people say they don't like me, but they like my policies. I think they like me. But I have never seen spirit like it is right now. And the reason is because crooked Joe Biden is so bad. He's the worst president in the history of our country. I don't think he's going to make it to
the other side of that, which you are.
Never know. But he's a corrupt person, so corrupt that I took the name off Hillary. You know, I don't do two people at one time. I took the crooked Hillary and I retired the name. It was a good day for her. I bet she was very happy. And I used it for Joe because it's crooked Joe. But Joe is really...
But you don't think he's going to make it to November of 24?
Well, I think he's worse mentally than he is physically. And physically, he's not exactly a triathlete or any kind of an athlete. You look at him, he can't walk to the helicopter. He walks, he can't lift his feet out of the grass. You know, it's only 2 inches at the White House, right? That's not a lot. But you watch him, and it looks like he's walking on toothpicks. So, and then you see him on the beach where he can't lift a chair. You know, those chairs are meant to be light, right? They're like 2 ounces. He can't lift the chair. He can't walk to the chair. And I don't know what they're doing with the beach. You know, this
what they're doing with the beach.
Role, but they love pictures of him on the beach. I think he looks terrible on the beach. He looks terrible on the beach.
Skinny legs.
Well, he can't walk through the sand. You know, sand is not that easy to walk through. But when he walks through, he can't walk through the sand. And there's somebody in there that thinks he looks fabulous at the beach. I think he looks horrible at the beach. Plus, the beach doesn't represent what the president's supposed to be doing. He's supposed to be working. He's supposed to be getting us out of that horrible, horrible war that we're very much involved in with Russia and Ukraine. You could do that. You could do that very easily. I believe you could do that very... I don't believe he could do it because he's just incompetent. But that's a war that should end immediately, not because of one side or the other, because hundreds of thousands of people are being killed.
Oh, it's great content for the Democrats.
Can you imagine you're in an apartment house and rockets are going into that building and blowing it up and knocking it down? And who can, why should anything, why should anybody, human beings, these are human, whether they're Russian or Ukrainian or whatever they are, it's got to be started. It would have never started. If I were president, it would have never started.
So back to Biden.
This is what happens when he doesn't have a teleprompter and he just talks off the top of his head. It tends to go in circles worse than I do.
The candidate?
Well, not really. I mean, I guess that.
Yeah, no, he played golf a whole bunch. He doesn't work a lot.
Remain for certain reasons the candidate. She has to. I don't think that's true. Actually, I don't think that other people would stand for it. She has some bad moments. Her moments are almost as bad as his. I think his are worse, actually.
Yeah. She seems pretty senile too.
She speaks in rhyme. It's weird. It's weird, but she has bad moments. And
in rhyme? What do you?
Well, the way she talks, the bus will go here, and then the bus will go there because that's what buses do. It's weird. The whole thing. This is not a president of the United States future, and I think they probably have some kind of primary. And other people will get involved.
Newsom, right? I mean,
Could be. I mean, you know, I always got along well with him, believe it or not. But could be him, could be somebody else. He's got a big load on his shoulders because you look at California, what's happened. But I don't know if the American people really, the people that vote for him, I don't even know if they care. You know, you look at so many of the things that are going on, and people don't seem to be. In the
Yeah,
old
I
days,
don't
if you
get
had
it
a bad
either,
record,
Zippy.
it meant a lot. Today, if you have a bad record, it doesn't really mean anything. You know, he looks good, he's a nice-looking guy, speaks well. But Biden, every time you watch him talking, it's like he's walking on eggs. You're waiting for him to collapse. And he almost
Take care,
always
Tupelo.
does.
Thanks for coming in, man.
And I got to know the leaders of all of the countries, essentially, but the big ones. And the bigger, the tougher the leader. You know, it's like sort of, I guess maybe that's the way it's supposed to be. But I got to know President Xi of China, and Putin, and Kim Jong-un, North Korea.
Holding your pants, Donnie.
Out of a nuclear war. We would have 40,000 dead soldiers right now. They'd drop a nuke right on top of the military base. But we have 40,000 soldiers over there. And I did great. I got along with him great. So that's a positive. You know, the press said, he said nice things about Kim Jong-un. I also said horrible things at the beginning. Horrible enough that he wanted to talk. And we talked, and we met in Singapore. We met actually twice. And we had unbelievable meetings. I know him very well. We were in great shape with them.
What do you think he and Xi and Putin think of Biden?
I think they can't believe it. I think they probably say this is some kind of a system. You know, they had great respect for our country. They respected me. They had great respect for our country when I was there. Every one of them. Look, if you go to North Korea, you take a look at what happened. You know, the Olympics was dead. South Korea spent billions on the Olympics. Nobody was going to go. They didn't want to get blown up. They called me and they said, we are going to let the Olympics proceed. This is North Korea. I said, you should go into the Olympics. Put your athletes in. It wasn't like, you know, they were big on athletes because, you know.
Famine.
But they went in.
Famine.
They actually participated. And within about 2 days, the entire thing was sold out. And if it wasn't me, that would have never happened. But I got along very well with them. And
Oh, thank you, Donnie, for saving the Olympics for North Korea.
And if Hillary would have gotten in, or if the Obama thought process continued, it would have been a nuclear war, absolutely, with North Korea. He was expecting to go into a war, and it would have been a nuclear war.
So do you think the rest of the world looks on at Biden and thinks someone else has got to be running the government?
Well, somebody else has to be. I don't think he's capable of doing anything. Look, when I debated him, I said, how come, and this was in front of probably not a friend of yours, Chris Wallace. He was the moderator.
Not a friend.
I said, why is it he wants to be Mike, but he doesn't have the talent? It's one of those
bitchy little man.
He wanted to be his father, but he didn't have the talent of his father was great. His father,
a little fussy man.
His father interviewed me in 60 Minutes. It was actually a 10. Can you believe it?
I told you his father had talent, at least.
I may have been the only guy that gave a good 60 Minutes. He was rough.
Really?
His father was tough. He was great. He was great at what he did. But Chris Wallace was so upset. He was guarding this guy who wouldn't do a show, by the way. You know, he wouldn't do. I figured I didn't mind Chris Wallace because Biden wouldn't do a show. And it was very obvious. You know, he kept asking.
Oh my gosh,
asking
did
for
you not
movies
mind
or
the
something.
guy, or
He
is
said,
he?
like me, but he came from a different planet. But remember when I asked the question, why is it that the mayor of Moscow's wife is allowed to give you $3.5 million? Don't forget, that was brought up now, it's brought up all the time, but that was brought up by me long before anyone ever heard of it. I said, the mayor of
No,
Moscow's
you
wife
can't.
giving you $3.5
Can't make
million.
this up.
What did you do to deserve $3.5 million? To Biden. And Chris Wallace said, this has nothing to do with the debate. I mean, he
got in the way of the question.
No, it was crazy. And I said, well, wait a minute. He got $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife. Now, people forget that, but if you go back and take a look, you will see. And Chris Wallace didn't want me to ask that question. I said, I think it's a very appropriate question. It turned out to be much more appropriate than people thought.
Amazing. So do you have a preference in, assuming you're the Republican nominee and all goes as you plan it to go, do you have a preference in who you run against?
In many ways, I'd love to run against him because his record's so bad. You know, it's still horrible when you look at inflation and everything else. But Others also have very bad records. I mean, California's a bad record, so, should it be Gavin or should it be somebody else? When I look at San Francisco, what's happened to that incredible city? That was one of the greatest cities in the world just a short while ago.
Lori, I think
very sad when you.
it was recorded late last
Every
week.
city, practically, all the Democrat-run cities. Republican.
It wasn't
cities are
tonight.
doing very nicely, because they arrest people when you
It
have
was
crimes.
pre-recorded. I think it
And
was
they don't go
recorded
after
on
political
Friday or
candidates
Saturday of last
because
week.
they think it's good. I mean, it's been amazing. My poll numbers are the highest I've ever had, but because people understand it.
Can I just ask you? That
Yes.
gets back to my original question. So if the protest didn't work,
They made
you
it
got
look
elected,
like it was tonight,
impeachment
but
didn't work
it was.
twice,
It had been recorded.
Indictment is not working. Your poll numbers go up. When they raided Mar-a-Lago in August of
Yeah.
last year, your numbers went up. They can indict you 20 times, and you're not gonna lose the Republican primary because of that.
Well,
So,
it
like,
makes it look even more ridiculous. I mean, the 4 indictments, and maybe there'll be more. I don't know. These people are crazy.
But they're counterproductive. So if you chart it out,
He's
the
already got
escalation
target
is
letters
what
for
I'm
3
saying.
more indictments,
So
is
what's
what I've been
next
told,
after,
for a
trying to
total
put
of
you in
7
prison for sexual
indictments.
assault,
That's
not
why I
working,
keep
so,
saying
like,
that.
Don't they have to kill you now?
I think the people of our country
Did he just ask if
don't
they have
give
to
enough
kill him?
credit for how smart they are. And I'm not sure I would have said this 10 years ago, but they get it. They
Yeah.
really get it.
Yeah, it
When
aired
somebody
tonight.
gets indicted,
Yeah, it
you
aired
know,
while
things go
the
down.
debate
When
was
somebody
going
gets
on.
Indicted, you announce, ladies and gentlemen, I'll be leaving to spend time with my family and to fight for the rest of my life on this stuff. But you're out of politics. I got indicted 4 times. All trivia, nonsense, bullshit. It's all bullshit.
Whoa.
It's horrible when you look and you look at what they're doing. The boxes hoax, I'm covered by the Presidential Records Act. I'm allowed to do
No.
exactly that. He's not covered, and he's got 25 times the number of boxes. And he's got them stored in Chinatown. He's got them stored in a flimsy garage underneath his Corvette at Penn. And by the way, at Penn, he gets millions of dollars. China pays this guy millions of dollars. See, I think he's the most corrupt president we've ever had. And he also has the distinction of being the most incompetent. And I believe both. I mean, he's both incompetent and corrupt. So
Ain't no Rico like a Giorgio Rico, because a Giorgio Rico don't stop.
About him. They know where the money comes from. They know where it is, who paid it, and they probably paid it. Well, they do pay Penn, and he gets $1 million. I think he takes $999,000 because keeps it a little bit under $1 million, like by $1. But he, in many ways, is a Manchurian candidate. We have a Manchurian candidate. And he's afraid to tell Russia to get out of Cuba. He's afraid to tell China to get out of Cuba. He's afraid. China now is building, think of this. China's building military installations in Cuba.
Yeah, I know. I don't like that at
The
all.
population of Miami is not too happy because they're never going to be able to go back. And you don't even hear about it. And the worst culprit is the press, the media, because normally, when I first heard that China's building installations in Cuba, and installations means military installations. Okay, there's just some communication. They did that on the islands with Japan. They took the island, they started this massive construction, and they told everybody, including the Japanese.
There's also a Russian presence on Cuba
this is a
too,
housing
which
development. They're going to build a housing development.
we're going to
And
have
I
to
say,
deal
how
with
come
at
the
some
runway is
point.
20,000 feet long? Private jets need 4,000 feet. They don't need 20,000 feet. The big ones need 20,000 feet. They don't even need 20. And I looked at the runway. I said, that's the largest runway ever built, both in width and length, for housing development. There's nobody that has a plane that big that you would have a runway that's
Why
that's
is
for
China
testing.
allowed to conduct imperialism in our hemisphere?
Well, yeah, and it's far beyond Cuba. It's all over South America.
Yeah, in the Caribbean.
So we built a thing called the Panama Canal. We lost 35,000 people to the mosquito, malaria.
Yeah.
We lost 35,000 people building. We lost 35,000 people because of the mosquito. Vicious. They had to build under nets. It was one of the true great wonders of the world. As he said, one of the 9 wonders of the world. No, it was one of the 7. This happened a little while ago, It says 9 wonders of the world. You could make 9 wonders. He would have been better off if he stuck with the 9 and just said, yeah, I think it's 9. But this is one of the true 7 wonders of the world. And you take a look at the Panama Canal. It was such an incredible engineering marvel. We sold it under Jimmy Carter. We sold it to Panama for $1. The following day, they quadrupled the amount of money the ships had to pay to get across. They didn't lose one ship. And now they've made it much bigger, and now they've widened it. They've doubled it, right? They've more than doubled it. And it's one of the most profitable things. Any time, it's just incredible, right? We gave it away for $1. China now controls it. They actually control the Panama Canal. They run it, they control it. And we shouldn't let that happen. And we can't let China be in Cuba. And they'll get out. If I'm president, they'll get out. Because I had a very good relationship with President Xi, but he respected this country, he respected me, and he'll get out. And we can't let them run the Panama Canal. We built the Panama Canal. Should have never been given to Panama. We should have had it. But we gave it for $1. Think of it. They quadrupled in
After
one day.
100 years, after 100 years, it was built on their property.
For these massive ships to go through, right? Rather than going around the Cape and to all the tremendous storms, such beauty, such, you know, it's beautiful stuff. But you didn't want to get caught in those storms. Those were
It's
storms
beautiful
that wiped
stuff,
out
but
the
you
big
never
ships.
done it because you
And
don't go on
the
boats.
Panama Canal, we built it, and we gave it away for $1. Think of that. How stupid are we? We have done the stupidest things.
We made that agreement 100 years ago when we
Now,
built
we have
it.
a president that can't put two sentences together, can't speak, can't walk, can't talk. I don't think he gets to the starting gate, but these people do miracles. I mean, he ran out of his basement, and you got away with that one because of COVID, so he sort of got away with it.
And you
They
ran
cheated on
into
the
your
election.
basement in the White
Yeah,
House
people are
when
very
the
smart, but they're
protesters
fascists and
were
they're
at the
radical left
fence
lunatics, and they're destroying our country
with
all
signs.
electric cars and the windmills all
You
over
had to go to the
place, which, by the
bunker.
way, don't work, and they're all most of them made in China. For the most part, they're made in China. Germany a little bit, but China. But you look at what's happening to our country, even no voter ID. I mean, why don't they want voter ID? There's only one reason they don't want voter ID, because they want to cheat. I mean, who doesn't want, you know, the Democrat convention, the last one, they had voter ID that was this big. It looked like a prison card, this big on their chest. You walked in, they had your picture, your this, your fingerprint. They had everything. The
No,
most
you didn't.
incredible voter ID I've ever
No,
seen.
you didn't.
That was to get into the Democrat National Convention. But to get into vote, if you buy groceries, if you buy practically anything now, you have ID on a card, credit cards or otherwise. And
But that, don't you think it's racist to have to show your ID?
well, they probably say that. They use anything not to show ID because voter ID is great.
There is one confirmed voter fraud. It was Mark Meadows, former President Trump's former chief of staff and fellow co-conspirator in the Georgia RICO case. Mark Meadows, it is confirmed, voted in 2 separate states. He did confirm. It's also confirmed he voted for Trump both times. Just something to think about.
Policies are so bad that if they didn't cheat, they couldn't get elected. Who wants open borders? Who wants high taxes? Who wants high interest rates? Who wants to not be able to use a gas stove? Or have to drive an electric car, which, you know, you have a 4-hour drive, but the car only goes an hour and a half, so you have to charge it. The happiest moment for somebody in an electric car is the first 10 minutes. In other words, you get it charged, and now for 10 minutes. The unhappiest part is the next hour because you're petrified that you're not going to be found another charger. People, I'm saying, if people, I'm not knocking electric cars, they're fine. They're fine. But if people want to buy a gasoline car or a hybrid, hybrids are pretty good, actually. But they should be allowed to buy. They don't want to do any of this. So right now, California's in a big brownout because their grid is a disaster. The grid all over the country is sort of a disaster, but the grid in California. And yet, they want to have in a very short period of time millions and millions of cars going off that grid, essentially. It doesn't work.
So plug your car into a grid that's failing.
You should be able to buy an electric car. You know, electric cars could be fine if you drive short distances and you want to have, you know, whatever, and you have plug-ins everywhere you go. They could be fine. But you got to have gasoline cars. You got to have everything. Let people buy everything. Now there's the new thing is your heating systems in the house. They don't want you to have a modern-day heating system. They want you to use a heating system that will cost you at least $10,000 to buy and won't work very well. You know, none of the stuff works as well.
Wow, he just
One of
pulls
the
shit
things I
right
did
out of
with
his.
EPA is,
He just
you have states, many states, most of the states have so much water. You know, it comes out of heaven, right? The water pours down, and you have it. It's there. It's got a go wherever it goes, into the oceans, whatever. It's not like a big problem. Now, in some states, they have a problem. You know, you have some desert areas and all, and for that, it's okay. But they have sinks where no water comes out. You turn it on.
Lori Arnold, there's probably an outlet somewhere
comes
near
out of
you.
the
Come on now. You can plug your phone
No
in.
water is allowed to go into the washing machine for your dishes or for your clothes.
I have no idea, Nancy. I'm beginning to wonder why I'm watching this.
Wait, they have sinks where no water comes
Sure,
out?
you have restrictors. When I say no water, very little water. You want to wash your
What's he
hands,
talking
right?
about?
Yeah.
Oh,
And you
this
put
is,
your-
he was
so you
talking
turn
about
on the
this
sink
washing
and
his
it's
hair the
there,
other day.
Or you want to wash your beautiful hair.
Ah!
And you're standing under a shower. Then the suds never go. The water comes out very slowly. I'm sure you've seen this. It usually takes place in new hotels and new homes.
Yeah, you take a drill and take the
They have a
limiter out.
well, you can, but now they make it so you can't do that so easily. They have a restrictor. It's called a restrictor, and it restricts the water from coming in.
Okay, he's a plumber
So I
now.
ended
All right.
all of that, and
He ended
so
it all.
they-
Sinks with no water.
You know what people do? They wash their hands like 5 times longer, or in the washing machine, they'll press for their, let's say the dishwasher. They'll press it, then they'll press it about 7 or 8 times.
Yeah.
They'll end up using more water, and it still won't be very good. I met with the head of Whirlpool. They were practically going out of business during my administration, and they said to me from Ohio, incredible, great
Indiana,
state,
actually.
Ohio,
Actually,
they were
Indiana.
really doing badly because people were dumping.
You were actually in
washing machines
Indiana
all
with
over, mostly
Whirlpool.
from South Korea,
You're
but also
maroon.
from China. And he was explaining it's just a terrible situation. I said, let me ask you, how's the quality? He says, we're better, but they are good enough quality. But, you know, of course he's going to say that. But, you know, they are better. He said, but they don't allow us. They're dumping these machines. They're cutting us in half. They're killing us. And on top of it, the government won't let us use water in our machines. I mean, he shows me like a quarter of a bottle of water. That's supposed to be washing clothing.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
put it all up, and I put tariffs on these countries that were selling and the machines coming into the country.
And all the jobs from Whirlpool in Indiana went to Mexico.
All the washing machine
You
companies,
didn't you
the big
didn't do
washing machines that
anything.
make
The
dryers,
jobs
they go
went to
into
Mexico.
that do this kind of work, including dishwashers. And they went from a disaster area to being just thriving.
But
they,
can I ask
They
why-
love me in that part of Ohio.
Well, I bet they do, but why should EPA, no one at EPA was elected by anybody,
Yeah.
why do they have the power to decide how much water your washing machine uses? Shouldn't Congress in a democracy get to vote on that?
Yeah, you could say that. They do things that are not very...
So how do you, that's my question, how do you, if you get elected again, go back to Washington, how do you keep the agencies under control? How do you keep FBI and CIA specifically under control?
The way you do it, like I fired Comey, that was a big deal. You know, a lot of people said, and I fired him very early. Somebody said, oh, I wish you would have fired him. There's a real question about firing him. Anyway, you understand, because, you know, when they have a 10-year term, there is a question. I fired Comey. That was a great thing. If I didn't fire Comey, maybe I wouldn't be talking to you, or I'd be talking to you about real estate or something else other than politics, right? That was a coup in my opinion.
Yeah, he's
That was
brilliant.
a very
He's
sick deal.
he's a
That was
very
the
stable
insurance policy.
genius,
You
and I
remember
can't
the insurance
understand what he
policy?
says
Oh,
because I'm
she's
nowhere
going to
near
win,
his
don't worry,
level.
She's going to win. But just in case she doesn't, we have an insurance policy. An insurance policy was what they were doing. And we caught them with that. That was a very important tweet or whatever it was, text. It was a big deal. That was a big deal. The insurance policy. She's going to win 100 million to 1. That's not good odds. At least they gave me one, right? 100 million to 1.
It
But
wasn't
just in
that.
case she doesn't win, we have an insurance policy. And everybody said, that's strange. That's
Nobody
strange."
said any of
But we
this,
caught
dude.
all that because I fired Comey. Because when I fired Comey, it was like throwing a rock into a hornet's nest, into a nest of bees, and the place went crazy.
So when you were president, are you confident that you knew everything, say, CIA was doing around?
No, I'm not. I'm not. It's a very interesting group of people. I had very good relationships, I thought, but I was a little surprised when I got out that, you know, things going. Look, it's.
What were you surprised by?
I was surprised. I think it's some of the people. I was surprised that there was. I had a group of people. We killed many, using the CIA, I have to say this, very bad actors. We were very good at it. You look at Soleimani, you look at al-Baghdadi, bigger than Osama bin Laden. I mean, Osama bin Laden is, but al-Baghdadi did ISIS, and he was rebuilding ISIS very strongly.
And that was the CIA that did that.
That was really us that did that.
Yeah.
That was really us that did that. And Soleimani was us that did that, not so
You were
much CIA.
told after it happened,
But
dude. Come on.
We did some very good work with the CIA. What I started, when I looked at the 51 intelligence agents saying that was the laptop from hell was Russia disinformation, when I took a look at that, I said, that's a horrible thing. They knew it wasn't. They knew it was not. And by the way,
the
you're
people
talking about cheating on the
people
election.
in his staff said he's a freaking
McLaughlin
idiot.
and Fabrizio,
He had somebody
Bill
take his
Paulson.
SATs
They
for
said
him.
a
That's
thing
why
like
he
that
has
plus other
non-disclosure
things make
agreements.
anywhere
You
from
can't
10
see
to
any of his records on
17%
anything.
of the vote would change.
What
What happened to
billionaire
Mike
doesn't
Pence? You've
doesn't
always
show
been
you
next to
how much
Pence.
money
I've
they
never
have?
criticized Pence
He
for
refuses to
having
show
Republican
anybody
ties,
because I don't think he has any.
What is that?
So
I think it's
Mike,
all a
what's
big
your
shill, a
interest?
big scam.
You
He just
understand? In my opinion,
lives off of
Mike
the
Pence had
image.
the absolute right to send the votes back to the legislatures. The Democrats and everybody said, you don't have the right. In other words, what I said is here,
You
you're
don't.
in conveyor belt. You mean if he finds fraud in Pennsylvania, in Georgia, in any of these states, Arizona, he has to send them to Mitch McConnell, right? That's right, sir. Well, if he finds fraud, he has to? Yes, sir. I said, so he's a conveyor belt. Boom, put him in. I said, I don't agree with that. And we had some lawyers, not all, we had some lawyers that said, no, you do have the right to send them back to the legislatures to be rechecked. Because if you looked at what went on in Wisconsin, who, by the way, now agree with me, Wisconsin has been virtually, other than the fact they're not allowed to do anything statutorily, but Wisconsin has been, what they found is incredible. We won Wisconsin. But Mike Pence had the right, in my opinion, to send them back.
Do you ever talk to him now?
No, I haven't spoken to him in a long time. I was very disappointed, and I didn't want to do what Thomas Jefferson did. Thomas Jefferson, it was Georgia.
Yeah, he's going to be
And it
hit
was
with divorce
here,
papers
the
again.
great
She,
state of Georgia is not
Melania has already
capable or allowed
talked to the State
to
Department about how much
tabulate their
pension he
votes.
actually gets.
And Thomas Jefferson, who was the vice president, said, is Georgia sure that they cannot tabulate their votes? Georgia is sure. He didn't send it back and have them redo it. He said, we will keep the votes of the great state of Georgia for Thomas Jefferson and his president. I didn't ask him for that. Could have done that too, but I didn't. I thought that would be turmoil. I asked him to send him back to his legislature.
You're
To the
delusional.
legislatures, in Wisconsin, let's say.
But why didn't he? You worked together.
You
for
should have
4
went away.
years.
Man, you
You're
should have
president,
quit
he's
while you
VP.
were ahead. Soon as you
say
got
were
beat,
aligned
you
on
should have
everything.
I
disappeared
think he got very bad advice.
and played golf.
Now, let me tell you what happened.
But
I
instead,
sat
you're
there
going to
with a few
prison.
people. I think his lawyer was in the room too. His lawyer was very much against it. There were other lawyers that felt you could do it. It was one of those things that I think you could have done. I think you can always do something if you see fraud or if you see problems.
Yeah, he wants to bring Barron out on the.
After the election was over,
That's the latest
the
dust
rhinos
up.
got together
He
with
wants
the
to bring
Democrats.
Barron out on the
and
campaign
they redid
trail,
the
and
election,
Melania
so you
says
couldn't do
no.
it
She's
anymore. So
sheltering
when I
him from
called
all
people,
this
I said, so in
BS.
other words, you're saying I was right. You could do it. Yes, you could do it. In other words, they took the Voting Act and they redid it so the vice president no longer has the power to do what I said he could do. So when that happened, I said, wow. And you'd look some of these Democrats in the eye and they say, he has absolutely no right to do it.
He doesn't.
And immediately
The
after the
Constitution
election,
says that.
They met rhinos, could name them all, and Democrats, and they approved legislation that takes away the right of the vice president to do it. So I said, So you're
No,
saying I
that's
was
you're
right?
lying,
The
dude.
vice
And
president did have the right to
unfortunately,
do it.
71% of Republicans are going to
if
believe everything
you're
you're
saying. They stole
saying.
it from you
Wait,
last time. Why wouldn't they do the same this time?
Oh, well, they'll try. They're going to be trying, yeah. And not only me, Look,
ah,
DeSantis is out. I think he's gone. So he was at a level. People have figured him out. He's gone. But if somebody else got in, other than me, they'll go at him just as viciously as they did.
what if it's Nikki Haley?
These people are sick. They will go after them. And a lot of people say they won't be able to hold up. I do get credit for holding up quite well, I must tell you. I think that's...
Dude, you're
How
broken.
do you do that? How do you get indicted, every week and stay
I know.
cheerful?
It's, I think it's a lot easier because I'm so high in the polls, because it means the people get it. The people see it's a fraud. The people see it, like this horrible district attorney from just a little while ago, from essentially Atlanta, it's Fulton County. She said, basically, I don't have any right to challenge an election. Well, what about Stacey Abrams? What about Hillary Clinton? What about all of these Democrats that are still challenging my election? The same people that
They did not. Hillary Clinton
challenging an election challenged my election. And they did it with slates. They did it with all sorts of
Hillary
things that were
Clinton
very bad,
conceded
But basically,
after it was clear she lost.
Right to challenge it. If you
Sorry,
challenge an
dude,
election,
you're
we're going to
you're
indict
rewrite.
you,
You're
put
trying
you
to
in jail.
rewrite
So
history.
what they're doing is they've weaponized, and don't kid yourself, the DOJ and Biden and the whole group, they're watching all of this stuff. They love the local stuff. You know, the DA in Manhattan. Not only that, they put
Yes, polls
one
are
of the
indicators.
DOJ top people into the Manhattan DA's office to run things. They don't even have
And
a
they're
case
not.
against me.
They're
even
not.
a case. Everyone says, even the Democrats say, you can't bring these cases. You have no case. The Attorney General or the
They're a snapshot of what the
district attorney,
people think at that moment.
Fannie Willis in Atlanta, she's getting killed. Basically, she's saying Trump
We're
doesn't
dropping
have the right
shrooms
to
and telling ourselves it never really happened. Those 4 years didn't
criticize the
exist.
election. But you've been around long enough now. You've seen many elections criticized. I mean, Hillary Clinton goes crazy. Every time she talks, she says, he's not the president, Jimmy Carter said. He's not the president.
You're not the
I am
president.
Hillary Clinton called
No,
me,
you're
by the way,
not.
3:02 in the morning,
You're not the president. Joe
kicking back
Biden is the
like
president.
The night of the election.
Did her voice crack?
Well, her voice was it's very different, I will say. I won't get into that. But
What do you mean?
her voice was very different. Don't forget, they were all celebrating at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And I came home and I said, you know, I think we won. I felt we won because the rallies are so big. You know, we'd go to Wisconsin and we'd go to Georgia. We'd go to different states. In Michigan, we'd have rallies. In Pennsylvania, we had 58,000 people in Butler. And I said, you know, how are we losing this? How do you have a rally where you have from 50 to 100,000 people, many of them? You know, I did 7 a day for a couple of days. That's a lot. That's a lot. These are big rallies.
7
I
a
didn't
day.
hold
You
back. I
didn't do
say, let's
7 a
make 'em
day.
little-
You
let's do
maroon.
abbreviations.
And
know.
you didn't have any rallies close to the size Bernie
But they
Sanders had,
challenged
so
us.
quit it.
Hillary called me up and conceded.
Yes.
So the word is that Obama said you have to do that.
Oh, gee whiz,
totally
dude.
conceded, but now, you know, every time you see her on television, she's saying, like, well, she's challenging the election. So that would mean that she should be indicted, but that would mean also that Stacey
Oh, my
Abrams
gosh.
in Georgia should be indicted because she still thinks she won the election for governor. She still thinks that. She's never recanted. And
Do you think Stacey Abrams will be indicted for that?
No, of course not. She won't be. The Democrats don't get indicted for things like that. They don't get impeached. No, it's a different thing. With that being
Bill
said,
Clinton got
I had
impeached
great
for
support
getting a
when they did impeachment
blowjob
hoax number 1
and for
impeachment
using a
hoax number
cigar
2.
as a dildo.
Jim Jordan, the House was fantastic. And
I did
actually,
not
the Senate
have
was
sexual
very good for me.
relations
Other
with
than,
that
you know,
woman.
Mitch McConnell, I think if he had, it's too bad I endorsed him. He was begging. He was going to lose that race, and I endorsed
for
him.
lying.
And he ended up winning the race because of my endorsement. He was down. He was going to lose to Amy McGrath. She was $90 million in cash, all set to go. She was leading by 3. He was going down. I did him a favor, and then 3-4 months later, he really wanted to impeach me. He's a bad guy. But if you look at what's going on politically, it's so interesting. The level of loyalty is different in politics than it is in normal life, I will say. With that being said, I've had great loyalty also. But the House was fantastic. The Senate was very good. You know, they overrode Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell, in my opinion, was trying to get senators to impeach me, especially for the second one. And on the first one, he acted very, very slow. Should have gone much faster. But Mitch McConnell wanted to, and the senators went up to guys that are subservient to him because he gives money.
First
You know, he gives them
president
money.
ever to be
He gives them a lot of
impeached
money. He raises
twice.
some money and he gives it to them, and therefore
First
they
president
do
ever
what he
to
said.
be
That's the only form of
indicted
leadership
at
that's
all,
fair.
let
So
alone
last
4
question,
times with
if
91 felonies.
You're
Last
elected
question.
president again. What's your number 1 priority? When you ran last time, you said, I will build a wall. This time, your bottom line top promise to the
So
country.
you can do numerous things at the same time.
Of course.
But let's say number 1 is a border and taking hundreds of thousands of criminals that have been allowed into our country and getting them
Yes,
out
it
and bringing
is.
them back to their country, Guatemala. By the way, not only the 4 countries that we think of as neighbors, all over the world. Last month, we had 149 countries represented. Think of it. We had 149 countries represented, Tucker.
The 4 countries
places
we
many
think of
people
as
never even heard
neighbors?
of, coming into our country. And they're coming in from mental
I thought it was
institutions.
just
and they're
Mexico
coming in
and
from
Canada.
prisons. They're emptying out their prisons all over South America. They're emptying out their mental institutions. Terrorists are pouring into our country. We have no idea. I had the strongest border in the history of our country, and I built almost 500 miles of wall. You know, they like to say, oh, was it less? No.
Yeah, it
I
was
built
like 53,
500 miles.
wasn't
In
it?
fact, if you check with the authorities on the border, we built almost 500 miles of wall, and I had another 200 that I was going to build. You know, it's like water, it seeks. And
What?
we're going to build another 200. We built it.
What?
It was all set to go. All they had to do was install it. It
sinks?
would have taken 3 weeks. And that's when I found out. I said, I think these people actually want open borders. The first thing I would do would be I would seal up the border good and tight, except for people that want to come in legally.
Do you think we're moving towards civil war?
There's tremendous passion and there's tremendous love. You know, January 6th was a very interesting day because they don't report it properly. I believe it was the largest crowd I've ever spoken before. And you know some of the crowds I've spoken before. And like July 4th on the mall, I think they had 1 million people there. But I think that the biggest crowd I've ever spoken before was on January 6th. And people that were in that crowd, a very, very small group of people, and we said patriotically and peacefully and patriotically, right?
No,
Nobody
you
else
didn't.
says that.
No, you didn't. You said
So
go up there.
peacefully and patriotically. But
Well, it'll all come out.
people that were in that crowd that day, very small group of people.
No, it goes on just a few
went
more
down
moments,
there.
actually.
There are a lot of scenarios that we can talk about, but people in that crowd said it was the most beautiful day they've ever experienced. There was love in that crowd. There was love and unity. I have never seen such spirit and such passion and such love. And I've also never seen simultaneously and from the same people such hatred of what they've done to our country.
So do you think it's possible that there's open conflict? We seem to be moving towards something.
I don't know because I don't know what it, you know, I can say this. There's a level of passion that I've never seen. There's a level of hatred that I've never seen, and that's probably a bad combination.
Donald Trump, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very much.
Thank you.
That is a bad combination. By the way.
Bad combination. Thank you.
Bad combination. Very bad combination. All right. Hey, thank you all for being here. Thank you for clicking on. Thank you for hanging out. I wasn't planning on being on camera at all tonight. So I don't have my sport coat on or anything like that. Let's hang Mike Pants with love. I'm going to tell you a little secret. When I gave speeches and I would talk about it, I'd say Mike Penis. I'd say penis, but make it sound like I was talking Southern Indiana. Some people caught on to it. Anyway, thank you again for clicking on, for being here, for hanging out through all of this. And I'll be back tomorrow night again. I'm coming on at 8 o'clock as of right now, unless Trump turns himself in sooner than that. In which case, if I get word he's going to be turning himself in at a specific time, I'll be on shortly before that specific time. So if you're a subscriber, hit the notification. If you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing so you know when we'll be on. And again, it'll be, as of right now, it's going to be 8 o'clock. So until next time, namaste, shalom, shalom, assalamu alaikum. Blessings be upon you. Live long and prosper. Peace. Positive vibrations. I love you all like chocolate chip cookies, and I mean that. It's a dark world. Try to be a light. See you later.